25th, 2020 to order. And may I ask Member Jim Healy, would you be kind enough?
My last meeting, please. I have never done it in 22 years. Please do my last meeting.
Okay, all right. Didn't know that. Member Bob Larson, would you be kind enough to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation following?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, please remain standing as I introduce Deacon Ron Yurkis. Ron Yurkis is from St. Petronell Catholic Church in Glen Ellen, and he's here to lead us in invocation. Deacon, please proceed.
Thank you. I forget the rules in training, like when the people are late, does that mean the prayer and the sermon should be longer or shorter? Well, my own pastor even yells out shorter. I'm honored and blessed to be with you this morning to pray with you and for you. As I told Sally coming up here, don't look for any great prayer that I have written out. I love to let the Spirit work through me, and that the Spirit will be with you here today. I've jokingly called this year 2020 the year of the eye doctor. But what have we seen now? Just as a little reflection before I start my prayer, though. Think about all that has happened. March, my wife and I were at a theater event, and the cast was told that was going to be their last performance. Little did I realize the last performances for many of us in many different ways. And so this past couple of weeks has been horrendous for all of us, I think, with the virus part. But even I'm an old Chicago boy, and where all the looting and demonstrating was the area where I went to school at. For those of you who might have remembered Quigley North, I was in that area. And so my heart is broken in so many different ways. But this morning I want to pray with you. I pray to you, God. I'm with my brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ, but I know there's people of all different faith traditions and denominations. So I'm with all my brothers and sisters who probably just have different names for God. I believe there's something like 300 or 500 different names for God. But I'm with you today for the God of creation, because all of us have been created in a very special way to do special things. So this morning, with this group that's assembled here to take care of our county needs, I pray that they will have the gift of you being present within them today. As I think about this year, all the blessings and all the crosses we've all had to carry through this year, I think of the gifts that are given to us. We talk about the virtues of faith, hope, and love. I pray that our faith has been increased by what we've seen, how people have reached out to one another at times of great need. The gift of hope, as we know that tomorrow can be a better day. Little orphan Annie, when she sang, "The sun will come out tomorrow," we know that that sun is still shining above the clouds. And we pray for that gift of love. That's the one thing God wants us to do, is to love one another as he loved us, no matter what name we give him. So I have my own particular needs that I pray for this year. I pray for the gift of peace, knowing that I am where God wants me to be today, that when I hear his call, I will go where he sends me. So I pray that we are all at peace this year. It doesn't mean just being quiet, but yet that peace of knowing we're all doing what we're supposed to do. I especially pray for the first responders. I'm a chaplain with the Illinois State Police, a volunteer chaplain, and so I can see both sides of the story with the police departments and what we're going through. And I was in Kenosha 2 weeks ago for my grandson's ball game, and what a wonderful community it was, what I saw now this week. I pray that somehow, Lord, peace will come to that community. I pray for that gift of wisdom. In my very humble way, I just pray that I would know what to do in circumstances that I've never been prepared for. And I see that going on with so many people. But most of all, I pray for the gift of courage. I pray for all of us for the gift of courage, that we have to make decisions in our lives. In this room, decisions are made, which maybe people don't want to make those because they have their own personal agenda. But I pray that all of us have the courage to do what we should do, not necessarily what we want to do. So, Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let us sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. And where there's sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Shalom, Pace, and Bene, Paz, whatever your background is, may that peace be with you. God bless. Good to be with you.
Thank you, Deacon. Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you very much. Pursuant to the governor's executive order, I will entertain a motion to permit the members of the board attending by telephone to participate and vote in the meeting. Is there a motion? Motion and a second. Arrange a motion. So a motion and a second from those who are physically present. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Okie dokie. So there's a motion and a second. Mr. Deputy Clerk, please call the roll on the governor's
Is
executive
that Healy
order.
on the motion? Larson? Larson? Noonan? Ozog? Pachowski? Renahan? Rutledge? Selman?
Aye.
Am I taking the votes of the people who are remote or just
Yes.
the people who are, okay. Tornatori?
Aye.
Zay? Chaplin?
Aye.
Covert?
Aye.
Desart?
Aye.
DeCiani? Eckhoff? Elliott?
Aye.
Hart?
Aye.
Healy? Krajewski?
Aye.
All ayes.
Okay, great. We have a quorum for this forum. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Chaplin?
Here.
Covert?
Here.
Desart?
Here.
DeCiani? Eckhoff? Elliott?
Elliott. Elliott.
Elliott?
You're
Mute.
on mute.
Sorry, I said here twice. I didn't realize I was muted. Here.
Hart?
Here.
Healy? Krajewski?
Here.
Larson? Noonan? Ozog?
Here.
Pachowski? Renahan?
Here.
Rutledge? Selman?
Here.
Tornatori?
Here.
Zay?
Okay, great. We have a quorum. Mr. Zay.
If we could have the people that are on Zoom turn their phones off, because all we hear on our end is bings and other things from your voicemails or emails. It's kind of annoying on our side.
Okay,
Hear
so-
that large one. If people
Yeah,
would do that.
be
that'd
mindful
great.
of the fact that whatever you have, there's an audio projection amplified here for the boardroom, so please be mindful and courteous. Thank you, Mr. Zay. We're on the order, we move to the order of Chairman's report. We have two presentations. This morning, we have the opportunity to hear from Karen Ayala, our Executive Director of the DuPage County Health Department. As you all know, we've seen some incremental increases in virus activity throughout our region, which has prompted changes to public health guidance as officials seek to stabilize and reduce the spread of COVID-19. These changes have prompted questions among some of our residents, so I thought it was a good idea to hear the facts firsthand and learn more about the response. So Karen is here via Zoom. Welcome. Thanks for joining us, and please proceed, Karen Ayala.
Thank you so much, Chairman, and thank you, County Board members, for this opportunity to provide a public health update on COVID-19. I have with me members of my team because, as you can imagine, this is vast and wide as far as requiring interpretation for all of the different challenges that we're facing. If I could go to the first slide, and Wendy is going to pull up, second slide actually. And Wendy, if you would pull up the dashboard online for us. And if you could, thank you. If you could scroll down. As you see, we are now at nearly 14,000 cases since March of 2020, we have over 500 confirmed deaths. Again, I think that we are getting slightly immune to the number of deaths. There are no other causes of death that have created that number of deaths within our community in 6 months. So I am very happy to report that the death numbers have reduced in large part to the increased capacity and talents of our healthcare partners. However, 500 still is a very stark reality and a reminder of what this novel virus has really wreaked upon our community. Wendy, if you could go down to the bottom left of the dashboard. And cumulative cases, COVID cases in the upper right-hand corner, expand that tile. On the other side, on the, there you go, under that one. Mm-hmm. Yep. And then if you go to the next tab on that tile. Yeah, if you go down, if you go below, sorry. To number of cases per day. You will see, as Chairman Cronin pointed out, that we have in fact had a steady increase prior to phase 4, moving into phase 4 and the 4th of July, we had a 7-day rolling average of about 35 cases per day. We are now over 100 cases per day on a rolling average perspective. And since we've been there since the 16th of August. So we are seeing a concerning 248% increase in the number of cases that are being confirmed over the past 8 weeks. If you go to the next tab on that same tile, positive and negative tests per day, I want to point out that we have not been receiving this information from the Illinois Department of Public Health. They have had some challenges with their reporting system. We have been requesting this on a daily basis and understand that they are still working on it. So if you could close back that tile. I want to go back to the, yeah. If you just, go back to the reducing that tile so we see the whole dashboard. In the upper right hand of the, yep, there, see it? No, down. There. Actually, Wendy was getting ahead of me because we're brain synced, as you can tell. We're making this look easy to do from a technology standpoint. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that we do have this new feature on this dashboard. Thanks so much for the partnership with the county GIS staff. You are able to select on the very top of the dashboard, you'll see that you can select a city, then you can select a date. You can plug in that date to drill down on what might be happening in your local area to a greater extent. Everything on the outside of this dashboard will update with information for whatever time period and whatever community you have selected. So We know that, these numbers are staggering. And again, to a certain extent, they kind of our eyes glaze over when we see these growing numbers. But if you want to know what's going on in your community more recently, we have that available. Any questions on COVID activity in our community? With that, I will.
Wait a minute. We have a question, Member Rutledge.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Karen, for coming and giving us the update today. And thanks to Dennis and all of the other people that keep us up to date on this. But I did have a question yesterday from our state senator about contact tracing. She wanted to do a PSA sort of thing, and I haven't gotten an answer yet. So could you give me just a quick thumbnail about how contact tracing looks in our county?
I would be happy to do that and more. It's part of my presentation. So if you could stay with me and make sure that I address your question,
Thank you.
that would be great.
Further questions from Member DeCiani, followed by Member Zay.
Karen, just a question on the hospitalizations. It seems like the cases that are being diagnosed as positive seem to be, I saw the stats like 99.3% are mild to asymptomatic. Are the hospitalizations pretty low? Are we seeing an increase in hospitalizations capacity?
We are seeing a slight increase. You probably saw in the Tribune over the weekend that Edward in Naperville is seeing an increase. We had a call with our healthcare partners this morning. And they are saying that, yes, they too are seeing an increase, although it's not back to March, April levels, thankfully. They are seeing an increase. They have also commented that although it's been only a few months that our healthcare providers have been tasked with treating this novel virus, our healthcare providers are feeling more comfortable, and we have resources like the pulse oximeter to send people home on to monitor their oxygenation levels in a less acute setting. So they're now seeing lengths of stay that are 5 or 6 days, whereas it was a couple of weeks earlier in the process.
Okay, further questions, Mr. Member Zay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Karen, I just had a question. Last week, you sent us the updates, and we get this chart here by age. And I was wondering, I assume this chart is starting from March all the way through that day, right? I mean, when I look at, obviously, as parents are out there and concerned with children going back to school, it showed we only had 313 cases from 0 to 9, and then 1,001 from 10 to 19. Is there any way we can get that by month and not in a running cumulative? Because, I mean, out of probably 300,000 kids in the county between that age group, I mean, that's basically a little over, 250 a week. I mean, are we seeing an increase on this, lately? I mean, it's hard to get a grip on it when we're getting numbers that are running totals from March up through August for 5 months.
Sure. So one of the ways you can get that information is using that new feature on the dashboard. So if you don't select an indicator, if Wendy, you just go over to the calendar and say we want to look from the 1st of July to yesterday's date. And then go to the tile that is under the total confirmed cases. Next one down, yep. Scroll down, because I think this is the one that has the ages. Yes. Then we can look at total cases by age. You will see the cases over the last 7-8 weeks. You could do that compare that to the March through July 1st, and you will see large increases in cases to our pediatric population have occurred since July 1. So to your point, members, yes, it's not only the numbers, but it's the timing, and absolutely agree that that we're most concerned with what's happening recently.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions at this point? Karen, why don't you proceed with your
Okay,
presentation?
so we'll go back to the PowerPoint. Our efforts have focused on providing, kind of in large buckets, providing technical assistance. We've been meeting on an ongoing basis with our Regional Office of Education and the superintendents. Very much appreciate mutually the support from Dr. Rossetti's office to help guide our school superintendents. And I think somebody pointed it out. Hopefully this is a once in a career kind of opportunity that we're facing in getting kids educated this year. However, we also meet with mayors and managers, police, fire, EMS. I mentioned that we meet with our health care and hospital systems, as well as meeting with the judicial and criminal justice system. So meeting with sheriff, courts, probation, state's attorney to make sure that they have the information needed to keep our institutions, our buildings, and all as safe as possible. Next slide is about our business and education response team. Regardless of what sector we're talking about, we all have businesses. So we established our business response team internally with existing staff of 5 individuals. On April 4th of 2020, we worked initially with our essential workplaces to make sure that early on in the pandemic that we were providing as safe an environment as possible. To date, you'll see that we've had calls and contacts and provided technical assistance to nearly 500 businesses. It translates to about 10 to 15 inquiries a day, and we spend anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes on each call. This is the team that will investigate if residents have complaints with a specific business or entity. They can contact this team. The email address is covid19business@dupagehealth.org, and we will make contact with that business. This is also the group of staff that have been tasked with following up. We receive emails or screenshots from Facebook of large gatherings or businesses that are planning large events, sports tournaments, things like that residents want to make sure are operating under the public health guidance. So this is the team that responds to all of those. Next slide, please. Again, our work early on when everything was closed was fairly straightforward. This team has been not only expanded, but even busier in the last couple of weeks as phase 4 has, as we've moved into phase 4. Under this team is where we provide all of the updated guidance to businesses and community residents about what is being recommended. To that point, we have developed a new tool for individuals because there's a lot of confusion around masking in public settings, and if I'm If I'm staying 6 feet, do I still need a mask? So, want to just run down. Masks are masking guidance, current masking guidance. Masks are meant to protect other people in case you're infected. Everyone should wear a mask in a public setting and when around people who don't live in your household. Masks should not be placed on young children under the age of 2 or anyone who has trouble breathing. We ask that you don't use masks that are meant for healthcare workers, and CDC recommends, advises that surgical masks and N95 respirators are still critically short. So if you would wear a cloth face covering, that would be appreciated. And the fact that we ask you to keep 6 feet between yourself and others, because the mask is not a substitute for social or physical distance. Think of it in terms of these are layers of protection. And on the next slide, which is different than mine. Maybe the next slide. Okay. We are providing these in terms of, again, like I said, layers of protection. So it is not just one thing. The more you do, the more you protect other people around you. And again, I think the level of spread that we are experiencing right now is highly recommending or leading us to needing to have all of these in place. Wendy, I'm thinking there's a fact sheet that you were going to pull up for us that we developed. Maybe DCHD guidance. Nope. This is the type of guidance that we have been offering in our toolkit to really support our local businesses. Clearly, our goals are the same and consistent. We are battling the virus. We are not battling each other. So as much as possible, we want businesses or food establishments or any kind of businesses to have what they need in order to protect their workforce, their customers, and the community. Back to the slide. We also have been, as I indicated and Darlene indicated earlier, we've been working with the schools to provide them with the best set of guidance and recommendations. We have chosen, the Department of Public Health has developed some metrics to follow in providing guidance to schools for reopening. As was indicated earlier, many schools have already reopened. Schools today don't look anything like they did a year ago because of their need to employ all of both the recommendations as well as the mandates that have been issued through the Illinois State Board of Education, as well as IDPH. We are supporting those and then also providing some parameters by which to assist schools in getting kids the educational opportunities as much as possible in person, based upon where our community metrics are sitting. We will. This is not a once and done, because we don't know how this is going to manifest itself in our community. But I am very happy and proud to say that all superintendents have been extremely supportive of making the health of their students the number one priority, followed by their meeting their educational needs going forward. So we have been working on that. Next slide. We also have been working busily at the community-based testing site. Next slide. We started on June 16th. We have received an increase to in our ability to provide testing based upon the community needs. So we started out with 400 tests a day. We're now able to provide 600 tests a day. We developed a video that has been seen by now almost 150,000 people on Facebook. And we share daily updates. Like if there's a slow day at our testing site, we send that out via social media. If we're really swamped, we send that out. And of course, closings are also listed. Next slide. Although we don't have the positivity for all tests run for our testing site as of 8/10, we had nearly 14,000 tests performed. We're now well over that because we've been hitting at least 400, if not 600 tests performed per day. Our average positivity for that site stands at 2.41%. And if you're looking for a day to wait in line at the testing site, Tuesday would be your day. Other days are much less busy. Tuesday, if you remember, is the first day of the week that we're open. We are shifting that beginning next week because we have found that Saturdays are our lowest volume. So we are going to shift and do a Monday through Friday operation. This involves the help of 48 temporary staff and 5 health department employees. We've been able to transition our employees back to their daytime jobs and meeting the other needs of our residents. At the same time, being able to train up and employ 48 staff. That is, in addition to that, we have the support of OSM staff and the search volunteers that they bring on to support our traffic control and some of the logistics sites. Next slide. You do see that although it is a Wheaton located site and that we've had a lot of traffic from Wheaton residents, that we have had individuals who have accessed this site from across the county. Next slide. Which now brings us into case investigation and contact tracing. Next slide. One more. We have a team of individuals who, whoops, if you go back. Go back one. There we go. Who are conducting case investigation and contact tracing from 8 in the morning to 7 p.m. They're reaching out to individuals who have tested positive for COVID-19 as well as their close contacts. We have trained both specialists and associates, that kind of a two-tiered approach, to ensure that anyone who tests positive have all the supports that are needed to isolate or quarantine safely. By participating in this process, residents really assist us and each other in limiting the spread of COVID-19 within our communities. Since early May, the health department has worked to expand our internal efforts. We were awarded a $4.9 million grant to support case investigation and contact tracing. Currently, more than 100 people, including 75 existing health department staff, and 30 temporary workers hired through a staffing agency have been trained. We anticipate another 35 being added to those efforts next week. When we talk about Answer the Call, which will be a promotional campaign that we launch, if you could go to the next slide. I've talked through most of this slide already, but you'll see on the bottom right, state of Illinois has insisted that every county use the same phone number, the same phone number will be displayed regardless of which county you live in. This 312-777-1999 is the number that will be displayed in the caller ID, or the caller ID will be listed as COVID contact. We are doing and launching a campaign right now to really educate people on the information, not only on the information that will be requested, but the information that will never be requested by a contact tracer. Things like your social security number or your immigration status or any of that information in a very similar way that the Census 2020 team has done as a result of the unscrupulous business practices that present themselves during times like this. The other opportunity for people, and I know in having, when my mom was alive, she was very suspicious of calls that she wasn't expecting and would always insist on getting the phone number and calling the person back to make sure that they were who they said they were, and that will also be available through this campaign as well. Next slide, please. So as of the second week of August, we have completed 4,935 case investigations. Again, that's typically the number of investigations that we do in an entire year. We've made nearly 14,000 calls, and we have over 100 staff now trained up to provide this type of information and to provide information and to collect information. So I think we have these forms hyperlinked. Keep going. Here you go. And these are, again, located on our website. So real contact tracers won't ask you for money, won't ask you for your credit card number, your social security number, those kinds of things. What they will be asking you, and then that information in Spanish. Then I think the next is it talks about what they will be asking you. And so this is information not only about how you're feeling and who you were in contact with. It's also evaluating the need for people who are positive to stay isolated And if you can't stay isolated at home within your home, can you go to a hotel? Do you need support for food? How long do you need to stay there? And that kind of information. So that's provided during those calls as well. Member Rutledge, does that address your questions on contact tracing?
Yes, Karen, thank you very much.
Great. And the last slide talks about the difference between isolation and quarantine. This is some media that we, campaigns that we have invested some of our CARES Act dollars into. Again, isolation is staying home if either you're positive or you have symptoms. So we talk about people who are asymptomatic but test positive. Those people need to stay home except for medical care at least 10 days from either their positive test or their symptoms starting. Quarantine is for individuals who have been exposed. Again, these are strategies that we use to disrupt the spread of the virus. If you remember early on, we talked about how the virus is spread. The virus only needs a human being. It doesn't really care which human being. And as we've learned over time, the age or the gender also are irrelevant to the virus. It just needs a human host. And so the way we disrupt that is for sick people to stay home, for people who might be becoming sick to stay home, and for the rest of us to use the strategies of physical distancing, masking, washing hands to make that disruption possible. We can't, this is absolutely something that we can impact in a positive way. Part of the concern now coming up into the Labor Day holiday is that we will see a repeat of some of our community residents not abiding by these public health messages, and we'll see yet another increase in the number of cases going on, which again now to the point where we're at with schools and other will have an adverse impact on our ability to keep kids in schools. So with that, I think we're ready for questions. Any other questions?
Thank you, Karen. I see Member Pachowski, followed by Member Renahan, followed by Member Rutledge. Member Pachowski.
Thank you, Karen. I do a lot of immigration law, and I live in Addison, and I'm concerned about what we're going to do in the Hispanic community. A lot of those parents are not well educated. They don't have access to the internet, and I'm just curious, are we doing enough in that community as bilingual, or should we have more bilingual workers out there due to the fact that these people don't have internet access? They don't have the ability to do what others might be able to do. What's your opinion of that?
Yes, I think that the language and cultural barriers of not only the promotional messages, but some of the implications around the spread of disease are really critically important. And we have developed a relationship where we're looking at with the DuPage Health Coalition, as well as the DuPage Federation on Human Services Reform, how can we address some of those racial and ethnic disparities? Some things that have come up previously are, this idea of limiting the number of people in gatherings, and that being something that culturally is just very very novel. They're not used to it. The bigger, the better. So absolutely, we can use more help. We can use, I think, authentic spokespeople from those communities to help get our messages out. And we can address We can look for ways to be creative. One of our key strategies that I was just going over is isolation. So somebody who's sick needs to be isolated from everyone else. Well, that's sacrilegious in a Latinx kind of community, or with, you just don't simply, in quotes, abandon someone who's sick. You need to nurture and take care of them. Well, that's what we're trying to avoid. So we need to get those critical messages out. And absolutely, we have all of our information translated in Spanish. We also have begun translating all of our press releases in Spanish and sending out to Spanish media outlets. Can we do more? I think absolutely.
Because Mayor DeSimone in Bensonville contacted District 1 people seeking specific people who would be COVID-19 employees or representatives for the Hispanic community. Are we addressing that issue, or should we look at that with these COVID funds to do more with those types of workers? Because tracing would be hard and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's certainly an opportunity. I think that finding people to do it is less of a challenge, making sure that they have access and are staying consistent with the best guidance provided through public health, whether that be through CDC, IDPH, or the DuPage County Health Department, I think are the bigger challenges.
Thank you, Karen.
Okay, Member Renahan, followed by Member Rutledge, followed by Member Ozog.
Thank you. Karen, I had a question. Some out of state, my daughter goes to school out of state, and they've transferred over to a saliva-based testing. I read U of I and some of the other areas are going to be doing that too. Can we expect to see that in DuPage?
We certainly hope so. It requires much less PPE to administer that kind of a test. And the University of Illinois is very interested in expanding that. So we've been asking IDPH for access to that level of testing, and are awaiting their response.
Okay, thank you, Member Rutledge.
Go on, there we go. Thanks again, Karen. Are you collecting any information about reinfection rates?
Dr. Chu, do you want to address that?
Sure, yes. The Illinois Department of Public Health, in our surveillance modules, there is an opportunity to track persons who have been previously infected, who are more than 3 months out, who are developing new symptoms, and if they test positive. So that's still being investigated on a case-by-case basis. I'm not aware of any validated cases of reinfection at this time, but it is something that's been identified as warranting further investigation. So if and when criteria are met, then those individuals are tested and specimens are sent for confirmation to the state and to CDC. So no counts at this time. We have not had any reports of reinfection meeting the CDC criteria in Illinois, to my knowledge, yet.
Okay, Member Ozog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to thank Ms. Ayala and her team. Dennis Brennan gives us updates every day. We know what's going on. I feel really well informed. I was at the testing center for a tour the first week it was open, and they're doing an incredible job. And I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate what you're doing. My mother was a nurse epidemiologist, and she was working on when AIDS was first showing up 30 odd years ago. And I can only imagine what you guys have been doing, and how you've been holding up is just fantastic. And you were heading into 6 months, but I sure hope by the time we hit 12 months, this will be heading into the past. Thank you, Karen.
Absolutely. Yes. From your lips to God's ears, right?
Anyone
Thank
else? Anyone else have a question? Member Covert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Karen, for all your hard work on this issue. I appreciate all the work that's being done and the time being poured into this. I had a question relating to COVID. It's, many schools are doing remote learning on a computer screen. where kids have screen time all day, 6 hours a day. I just want to know, since we have a doctor in the boardroom, how will this affect children's eyes and mind possibly, and will it have an effect? And how can we prevent that? Because I don't know how long we're going to have remote learning. It may be for the whole year.
Hi, yeah, this is Rashmi Chugh, and I think it's a great question and a very valid concern, particularly as you mentioned, given the potential duration of extended screen time for learning and potentially recreation. And, so we are providing a lot of the public health recommendations related to COVID transmission and have not had a lot of dialogue or input with regard to the implementation of their specific learning models, but we can certainly inquire more about what their implemented remote learning models look like to see if there are, or maybe they already have different breaks worked, integrated into the schedule to try to increase some at least physical activity, or just, having a brief break to have some less intense, to have some eye movement that just helps to break up the intensity of the learning session. And so it's a good thought, and we can certainly inquire from our school administrators to see what, working with the ROE, to see if there is an opportunity to partner with them in overall improving the public health, not only the interventions and their response measures, but also the solutions, which sometimes include remote learning, and making that as healthy of an environment and experience as possible. Thank you.
Absolutely. And from Dr. Russetti, it's although the cumulative time may be up to 6 hours, they have built in and taken a great deal of time to address that issue with breaks and exercises and things like that. Again, not ideal, certainly. And we hope very soon we can get students back in school. But again, that depends on how we do as communities in interrupting the spread of the disease.
Yeah, Karen, if I could just add, there is a direct inverse relationship between community level transmission and degree of in-person learning. As you were alluding to before. So the higher the higher the level of community transmission, the more remote learning will need to occur in schools. So 100%, the lower, closest to zero that we can have our disease activity, then the more we can resume in-person learning, which would be optimal.
I just had one more question, because there are park districts and YMCA opening up to take children for babysitting purposes and supervision while parents are at work. And they seem to be taking in children, but socially distancing them, yet the schools are still closed. So I don't understand how those two could be reconciled, where we have park districts open for babysitting purposes, but we don't have schools open that are socially distanced. And I was thinking maybe we could have the health department weigh in on this. Maybe it's a possibility to have in-person instruction socially distanced at closed off grocery store buildings, or like these, buildings that are not being used, that are really big, but everyone's spread out, and parents have that option to send their children for in-person instruction. And the parents who don't want to, they don't have to, they could have remote learning. I don't know, some solution of that nature, because we do see park districts opening and taking in students, and that could be, we could have a spread of COVID within those park districts as well. So I'm not really
absolutely, and I would point out that we have had COVID spread in park district programs and in some of those activities over the summer. And one of the differences, although park districts and the Ys have to maintain the same the same protocols as schools do. And frankly, I'm not sure how they're going to do that. But the benefit of those is that they can have fewer children in one group versus schools, and less interaction, and keep those cohorts separate. And that certainly is what we are looking at with the schools, to try to, again, get kids in and probably is tiers, right? The best place that they could be and that they need to be is in schools. And then that if they can't be in schools, then perhaps supervised activities through park districts or WISE could happen, so that they're not left alone or running the streets, because again, parents have to work, and we certainly understand that. And this is a huge challenge. There's nothing that we've ever done like this before. So I appreciate people's patience, their ideas, and looking for problems or looking for solutions to each of these issues.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Further questions? Anyone else seeking recognition? Question, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks so much, Karen, for all the work you're doing. Member Ozog, I'm echoing her statements. You guys have just been phenomenal, and I'm sure it's been a very stressful time. I just had one quick question for you. The testing facility, I know we're going to have it like 9 or 12 weeks. I can't exactly remember, but are we going to be extending that, our testing facility out in DuPage? Do you know?
Yes, thanks so much. I failed to mention that we are looking right now at extending it through October.
Oh, great.
And again, with the shift of the days of the week, but we are going to be able to extend it through October.
Oh, very good.
We're also looking at still mobile testing sites. We had Mayor Craig up in Hanover Park. We were able to connect him with IDPH resources, and they had a mobile testing site up at one of the churches there for 3 days last week. So we're also looking at those kinds of opportunities and bringing some of the state resources here as well.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyone else? Member Eckhoff.
Short question. Someone indicated that the goal is to get the disease rate down to 0 so that we can open schools again. So wondering what the disease rate was last year for flu and other things for the people in the schools.
This is Rashmi Chugh. So we don't have a comparable disease rate. It was, and also our surveillance methods have been very different because influenza is not reported on an individual case level. We only track, during H1N1 in 2009, initially we were, but very soon, within months, we transitioned to only tracking the more severe cases, the hospitalized cases and deaths. And then eventually to the point where now we only track ICU admissions and pediatric deaths. So, for example, for last year, and typically, thankfully in DuPage, we, for example, last year had no pediatric deaths, and then also average anywhere from, say, upper 90s to about 150 ICU admissions. So if we look at even just ICU admissions and deaths, I don't recall off the top of my head how many deaths we had, but I believe it was under 100. From a severity perspective, we far exceeded that with COVID-19 so far. And so I don't have an apples to apples comparison, but just given that this is a novel virus, it's not, and we did have a vaccine by October. So generally I would say its activity is still much higher, and about the mention I made about getting to 0 was more about, with any disease in an outbreak state, we would not consider our outbreak over until we're 2 incubation periods with no new cases. So for COVID, that would be 28 days with no new cases. where we would consider the outbreak to be over.
But that
Thank you.
comparison of the people who get ill, that's not children, is it? Because it's my understanding that the children get very low transmission of COVID-19 and high transmission of the flu.
No, I would say we're still very much learning about transmission in children. In fact, there was a very large study that showed recently that children between 10 and 19 can expose as efficiently as adults, or have a very similar degree of transmission as adults. And then also in very young children under 10, they're found to carry a high, or at least in their respiratory tract, like in their nasal passages, a high level of viral load. So we don't know if that translates to ease of transmission, for example, if they're without symptoms versus with symptoms. But it's certainly something that's still very actively under study.
Well, I understand, but 99.3% of the people don't have symptoms. So it seems to me, that's what
I wouldn't say no symptoms. I've heard about 40% being asymptomatic of cases, correct?
All right. Well, the stats we get every day say mild or none. But anyway, it just seems to me if you're waiting for this to go down to zero, we're not going to be open schools next year either.
Oh, I didn't say that schools, I'm just saying that the lower disease activity, the better. Frankly, if we were at the levels of transmission that we had in late June, we probably would have more schools that had in-person activity to some extent. But we're now at 3 and 4, at easily 3 times where we were in June in just 2 months, as Karen was relaying. So we certainly want to see a reversal in that trend before we expand further in-person activity and learning.
Okay, thank you, Rashmi. Further questions? Further questions from anyone? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I think we owe a big debt of gratitude to Karen and Dr. Chug for all the good work that you do, and thank you for giving us an update today. So, with that, we move on to the next order of business under Chairman's report. We have Greg Bedeloff joining us now with a report that takes a closer look at businesses that have benefited from DuPage County's Reinvest DuPage program, the small business grant relief program that all of us are familiar with. Greg will take a little deeper dive into the numbers and business profiles to tell us more about program applicants and their needs. So with that, Greg, take it away.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Board. I'm assuming everyone can hear me. And I'd ask Wendy to begin sharing the screen presentation that I provided. So as the chairman mentioned, I thought as we're wrapping up phase 1 of the small business grant program, I would give the county board an overview of how we did in terms of the number of applicants and the dollars that have been deployed and where we stand as we begin phase 2. Next slide, please. Wendy, you could go to the next slide. I'm still seeing the first slide. Thank you very much. So we received, as this slide indicates, nearly 1,200 applications during the first phase. We had 5 batches. There's a batch coming before you later today, which only has 37 applicants that are being recommended. But we did receive close to 1,200 for the entirety of the program, and we have recommended 598, or nearly 50% of the applicants for approval, with a total dollar amount of $6.275 million of small business relief. On the right side, you see the 5 different batches and the number of applicants. Of those applicants, how many were businesses and how many were independent contractors. Next slide, please. As a reminder, the acceptance criteria as defined by the county board for the first phase of the program, the key element that I'll point to was you could not receive any previous COVID relief funds, and you had to be in good standing with the Secretary of State, business revenue of $1.5 million or less, and 15 or fewer full-time equivalent employees. Next slide, please. So of the 598 that we mentioned, 524 of them were classified as businesses. Within that classification, 300 were corporations, 68 sole proprietors. You have the information there in front of you. I'll draw your attention on this slide to the average number of employees from each business was 2.2. So if our intent was to help small business, clearly, as measured by the number of employees, we've achieved that goal. Next slide, please. The average annual reported revenue, gross revenue from those businesses who were awarded the grant was just over $200,000, and they expressed an average estimated COVID-19 related financial loss picture for a calendar year of just over $72,000. Next slide, please. There were several conversations during the approval process of this that we wanted to get good distribution throughout the county. We've been working with the GIS team at DuPage County. They've been really, really helpful throughout this process. Here are the locations of the approved businesses. As you can see, we had great coverage throughout the entire county. Next slide, please. The average amount requested from a business was just under $13,000. You'll recall the cap was $15,000. We marketed the program and tried to educate applicants to make sure that they only applied for COVID eligible expenses. They did a great job there. Just under $13,000 was the amount requested, and the average amount that we recommended for award was just over $11,000. That is for businesses. Next slide, please. We had 74 contractors, 1099 workers, gig workers. They reported an average annual income of just under $42,000, and they needed the money for the loss of income, the sunken service fees and expenses, and rent and utilities that typically go along with 1099 work or gig work. Next slide, please. Again, we mapped out the location for the contractors, and once again, you'll see pretty uniform distribution throughout the entire county. Next slide, please. The average amount requested from a 1099 worker or a gig worker was just over $6,300, with an average amount awarded of just over $4,500. Next slide, please. So of the 1,131 applicants, again, working with the county GIS department, we did break it down by municipality. This is available on the county website, I think through the county GIS department, I guess I should say. And then we broke it down by number of applicants per county board district. So that information is right there in front of you if you want to see how an individual municipality did in terms of the number of applications that came in from within your district or from within a municipality within your district. Next slide, please. So you all allocated $50,000 to Choose DuPage to administer the program. We submitted our costs to Jeff and the folks in the finance department last week. For phase one, we're coming in at $46,940, and that's the majority of that time, as you can imagine, has been from a payroll perspective for interns that we brought in and some staff costs to review the 1,200 applications, communicate with the applicants, chase down additional information that may have been missing from applications. We did do some marketing. We needed a portal from a technology perspective for folks to upload their information to. So there's the breakdown. There will be some additional costs as we true up the businesses that have used the money so they can report to us that the money has been used in the fashion that they requested. Next slide, please. So phase two, we opened phase two the day after you all approved phase two. The main difference is that we have removed the restriction. You all removed the restriction regarding previous COVID relief funds. And as you can see, as of the 21st, we had received as many applications in our portal as we received during the entirety, nearly as many, during the entirety of phase one. As of today, that number is over 1,200 applicants. We will likely cut off the ability to apply in the next day or two using the same rejection rate that we used for the first phase and the dollar amount that you allocated for the second phase. We think we'll achieve that $9 million with the number of applicants that we have in the program in the portal currently. Next slide. I think that wraps it up. Yep, that wraps it up. Thank you for the ability and the opportunity to administer this program. We are receiving thank you notes, thank you emails from businesses throughout the entire county, letting us know how grateful they are to you all and to Choose DuPage for running the program. I'm happy to answer any questions about phase 1 or things as we move forward in phase 2.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bedeloff. We have some questions. Member Elliott, followed by Member Ozog, followed by Member Selman.
So, Greg, I just want to thank you for your great presentation this morning, and I also want to thank you for the hard work that you've done in this program. I know I've received a handful of communications even this morning from people telling me that this program kept their business afloat, really helped them get through some tough times. So even though maybe the dollar amounts weren't as huge as we've seen with other sort of government programs, I think this one really hit its target very, very well, and I think really provided a lot of businesses and organizations with critical funding to get them through, hopefully, we hope, the worst of this time. So thank you very much to the work that you did, and thank you as well to Finance Chairman Larson, who I know sat on your board as well in reviewing these.
Okay, thank you, Member Elliott. Member Ozog?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick update on you said cutoff. Do you have a cutoff date? Do you have a closing date for applications at this point?
We have, Member Ozog, we have not published a cutoff date for applications. We typically market the program through our website and our social media outreach. And when we decide, it's part art, part science, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. The applications that we've been reviewing this time around, because remember, these applicants may have already received PPP or some other funds. So for lack of a better term, they're a little more complete. They're a little more thorough in the information they're providing. So we're going to make a judgment call in the next day or two, and then just what we'd hate to have happen is leave it open for too long and then have to tell applicants that we don't have the funds to meet their request, or have to come back to you all and say, we could use more money for the program, which we're always willing to do, but I know that you have other COVID needs. So in the next day or two, we will post on our website that applications will be closing in the next 24 or 48 hours.
So it is very, very soon. One last question. In terms of having received the money before, is that kind of a fluid criteria as to how you're going to administer the funds if you did get previous money?
Well, if you got previous money from the DuPage grant, you are not eligible for this phase. Okay. But if you got previous money from the federal government or EIDL or any COVID program, you are 100% eligible as long as you meet the criteria. We didn't change the size. You didn't change the size of the business criteria. So we're handling them. I'm not sure I 100% understand your question, but that doesn't exclude them.
For instance, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know somebody who got a sole business person who got about a $3,500 loan or has one employee. Mm-hmm. So I would consider that quite small from the PPP program. And so you're going to look at the application based on what they're asking for this loan versus a small amount like that.
Yes, correct.
As you said, art versus science. Thank you. And thanks for your hard work on this. Thank you.
Okay, Member Selman, followed by Member Dessart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Greg. I just wanted to briefly echo Member Elliott's comments about how much of a great presentation this was, how succinct and really clear you communicated all your updates. I also just want to thank you for how quickly we've gotten this program up and running. I think the conversation of could we create a program like this started soon after the PPP amounts were given, and we heard a lot of our local community members weren't able to get access to those loans. So it was a call with Member Dessart and I on talking with our lobbyists, this little idea of could we use our money this way. Within a week, you guys had fleshed out an entire program. And so I just am really grateful for all the hard work you've done to take the ideas this board has given you and to make it a program that's really helped some of our business owners. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Member Dessart.
Greg, I echo that. I thank you for all your hard work on this initiative. It's really important for our small business owners. My question, and I had to step away for a second, so if you answered this, I apologize. But my question is, how long, what's the turnaround from when you receive an application to a check is in that small business owner's hands?
Yeah, that is a great question. I apologize. I perhaps should have covered it. When we have a complete application, because many times we get stuff in the portal. We have a portal where businesses are asked to download the information that justifies their grant request. From the time that application is complete and reviewed thoroughly by Choose DuPage staff to the time it goes to you all is usually 2 weeks or less. We have a grant committee that reviews it, and then we schedule it. That's why we're bringing them to you in batches so that we can turn them around as quickly as possible. Quite frankly, some of the challenges has been the information, and it's better with this batch. The information that businesses have been uploading is oftentimes incomplete. It doesn't show revenue loss. It doesn't show what they plan on using the money for. It doesn't meet all the criteria. So our team here has been working really hard to get that information as quickly as possible. Once we have it all, once we've signed off on it, it's about 2 weeks from that time to the time they have a check in their hands.
Excellent. Thank you, Greg.
Okay. Anyone else have a question for Greg Bedeloff? Mr. Larson.
Not a question, just a real quick comment. I also wanted to thank, having sat in on some of the meetings where we reviewed these, there are a bunch of bankers and people, citizens, who are not getting compensated in any way, shape, or form to work and review these things in conjunction with Choose DuPage. So I thank them for taking the time to do that for us, to make sure we're doing the process, and thank the auditor's office for the work they've done to contribute to make sure that we're spending this money appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Anyone else with anything they'd like to offer here? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Thank you very much, Greg Bedeloff and Choose DuPage. Moving right along on Chairman's report on the order of Chairman's remarks, before you today is an agreement with the DuPage Regional Office of Education that will bring connectivity and internet service to low-income students throughout the county. With the emphasis on remote learning, it is essential that families have the internet services needed so that their children can access the teachers and classwork. And so the resolution before you allocates $1.5 million in federal coronavirus relief funds to the ROE to coordinate with schools so that needy families in their districts can receive internet service at no cost. In this environment where all of our institutions, government and employers, workplaces, especially schools, we must be flexible and nimble to adhere to public health guidelines. Being able to connect to learning remotely is not a luxury, but it is a necessity in this pandemic. So the resolution before you today allows DuPage County to set the standard, leveling the playing field for a lot of families regardless of socioeconomic status. I'd like to thank the Regional Office of Education Superintendent Dr. Darlene Rossetti, Auditor Bob Grogan, Board Member Brian Krajewski, members Renahan and Hart, who work together and with the superintendents to bring this program to fruition. I'm happy to announce the first event of our Unite Against Racism series with the College of DuPage. The first virtual forum deals with the topic of civility and is entitled, Does Freedom of Speech Really Mean I Can Say Whatever I Want? It will be held at noon, Tuesday, September 8th. Panelists include COD General Counsel Lillian Collin, Political Science Professor David Goldberg, Manager of Student Life Chuck Steele, Student Trustee Samiha Syed, Dean of Students Dr. Nathania Montez will facilitate the roundtable discussion about the lines between free speech and potentially disruptive behavior. And this will take place on COD's campus and in our communities. In addition to this event, the new campaign encompasses a web platform that includes stories and videos through the eyes of community leaders, faculty, staff, and students. It also includes a community Read and Reflect series, virtual forums, and a blog highlighting personal stories on race and diversity. The new blog series is entitled Speak Your Truth. Features community members sharing their insights about how race, diversity, equity, and inclusion have impacted their lives. A Holocaust survivor, Ivy League graduate, village trustee, and a host of others will unveil their stories of inspiration and triumph. Details will be coming soon to the COD website, which we will share as well. I'm really excited about this partnership with COD. I've had some good discussions with the leadership over there, and I encourage all of you, all board members, and your colleagues to participate, please. And finally, August 18th marked the 100th anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. As we marked this important event, I had a chance to review two really interesting exhibits celebrating this anniversary at the DuPage County Historical Museum, entitled Ballots of Power, A Century of Women's Suffrage. It runs now through April 10th. This exhibit examines how women in DuPage County have voted, have run for public office, and have advocated for change. And Rightfully Hers is a pop-up display from the National Archives. It explores the history of the 19th Amendment, women's voting rights before and after the amendment, and its impact today. That exhibit will be on display until September 30th. I want to thank Michelle Podkova and Zach Bishop and Michael Bernard for their hard work developing these exhibits, along with their community partners. Again, I encourage everyone to visit the DuPage Historical Museum to learn more, especially as we celebrate the 19th Amendment's anniversary. So with that, my chairman's report is concluded. We move to the next order of business, entitled Public Comment. According to our county board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board, and we welcome this. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes in length, nor shall the total time provided for all remarks exceed 30 minutes. So for the record, it's about 12:30 p.m. right now. We do have a few folks here in person that want to be recognized, and with that, first up, we have Kathy Nelson from Glen Ellen talking about property taxes.
We can't hear.
I'm sorry, we can't hear.
They're not, the remote board members can't hear Ms. Nelson. What can we do, Joe? All right, stand by. And then wash your hand off. Sure. Yeah, she'd have to, yeah, there you go. Mr. Briggs can escort her. Yeah, we have two folks seeking recognition. We can accommodate them at the podium here today. Okay. There you go.
Thank you. My name is Catherine Nelson, and I'm here today to request that the board consider providing extra time to homeowners of DuPage County who are not able to pay the second installment of their real estate property taxes in full as of September 1st, and possibly not even as of the final November 18th due date. I understand there was a waiver of late fees available for people who could not pay their first installment of 2019 property taxes by June 1st. I'm sure that was a great help to those who could not make that payment. However, I did make that payment on time. It is now that I find myself needing help with the second installment, having lost my job of 21 years on May 12th, 2020, when my position was eliminated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is not an easy thing to request. I take pride in the fact that we own our home and have always made these payments on time. At the beginning of this year, I had no reason to believe my job of 21 years would be eliminated. I did not know I would be paying in full for my health insurance with no help from an employer. I did not know that my regular unemployment payment would be approximately 40% of what I was making, which is actually almost the maximum allowed in Illinois. I did not know that the federal government would come to an impasse over approving an extension to the $600 per week extra unemployment long before this pandemic is over. With the extra $600 a week, we were about breaking even. Now that is gone, and with its departure, we are left with a difference in my take-home income of more than $2,000 a month. It will be a challenge for us to pay many of our bills on time. Unfortunately, right now, one of those bills is the second installment of our property tax bill. I am truly concerned that we will lose our home in the Valley View subdivision of unincorporated Glen Ellen because we can't pay our $300 property tax installment, which, after owning this home for almost 9 years, seems inconceivable. So here I am. On Friday, August 21st, after I went onto the DuPage County Treasurer website and then called the Treasurer's office to ask about an extension, I was told that the board had neither approved the extension for the second payment nor any waiver of late fees. I was told I could make installment payments on the balance via checks through the mail, but that the late fees would apply to any open balance, and that the regular plan of listing homes with unpaid property taxes for a November tax sale was still in place. At that time, I was not offered any path to relief. I told the woman I spoke with that I would contact the members of the DuPage County Board. I did not get that employee's name, but I want to emphasize that she was very kind, not in any way rude, and that I really appreciated her telling me what was what so I could take action. At this point, I emailed Chairman Cronin and my 3 DuPage County Board members from District 4, Ms. Ozog, Mr. Elliott, and Mr. Eckhoff, explaining my situation. All 3 board members responded to me over the weekend, which I very much appreciate. Ms. Ozog responded that she asked the county treasurer to get in touch with her and that she would respond to me sometime the following week. Mr. Elliott indicated that he was not sure the board would be able to provide a waiver again, but that there are hardship programs to which I could apply. Mr. Grant said he did not vote for the original waiver, but would be more open to a 3-month extension of the second installment. I do not know if he meant 3 months from the November 18th due date, but that is what I am requesting. That any tax sales of properties in arrears for their second property tax installment be delayed until at least February 18th, 2021. We want to pay our taxes in full. We are not asking to pay less or even for the late fees to be waived. As with almost all things having to do with this pandemic, we just need more time. I do not think that individual homeowners should have to apply for hardship status, although I admit I don't know anything about that process, and I should know more after I speak with the county treasurer. But proactively offering a plan to people in this position would be better. I realize that my request for relief may have come too late for the board to do anything prior to September 1st. But I would ask that you think about whether maintaining the original, normal November tax sale date is really in the best interest of this county, and to ask yourselves if extending the deadline would create an undue hardship on the county that would outweigh the relief it may bring to the homeowners who have been diligently paying property taxes into the county coffers faithfully for years. In other words, do you want all the money later as opposed to never? Thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. Perhaps I am truly the only DuPage County homeowner who is facing this problem. Could be. But I imagine that there may be more than a few other homeowners who are making decisions right now about which bills to pay. Extending the due date would give them and us a better path to making good on our commitments. Yes, we knew the property tax payments were coming, but those of us who have unexpectedly lost income because of this pandemic through no fault of our own need a new path to be able to keep our homes. Please help us find that path. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have Anna Kling Sanchez from West Chicago. Sunday.
Good afternoon. I am just a simple resident, U.S. citizen. I'm here with my son, Donnie, who is autistic. I'd just like to thank the Commissioner Peter, because I believe under his leadership, there was a program that fingerprints all the autistic children in case they get lost. Thought it was a great, fabulous idea. Now, I am here, I'm going to keep it short and simple, because I am concerned about something, and it's pretty disturbing. I live here in West Chicago, and my concern is our safety. I think you all know about the phrase Black Matters. That's pretty disturbing because right now I see that we are having a big problem with that. I believe that that's intimidating our law enforcement to cut down on certain things. For example, I understand that what happened, a few apples made everything go down spiraling down. And I do believe that we should keep the law enforcement. Please don't cut down on our safety. Do not cut down on removing certain people because they are doing a great job. So far, thank God, nothing like that has occurred. But I am a mother of a autistic child, and I don't want to see any chaos coming to our community. So I only ask that you please do not make any cuts on the law enforcement because you matter too. Many of you do care, and I believe that please continue doing great work. I wanted to keep it simple and down to the point so we don't forget that it's common sense that you exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So now we move to the portion of our public comment where folks participate via email. And so I will defer to and turn it over to Connor, our Assistant State's Attorney, to read these remarks into the record for our minutes, please. Please proceed.
Okay, the first comment is from Elizabeth Westergaard. It's regarding vote by mail. It says, voting by mail and early couldn't be more important at this time. Please continue to support voting by mail. Thank you. That concludes her comment. There's a duplicate comment submitted, looks like the same time. It's from Ms. Westergaard. It says the same thing I just read. Next comment is from Gerald Gentile. It's regarding civility. It states, good morning, Chairman and elected officials. It is vital to behave and represent the county with civility and care. I hope awareness and mentoring of how to conduct oneself and represent the county with care and decency is added to future trainings. That concludes his comment. There's a duplicate comment that says the same thing from Mr. Gentile. Next comment is from Elena Nickel, Nichol. It's regarding hen keeping. It says, I would like to stand in support of crafting a hen keeping ordinance to support this essential provision, quote, by right. We need to improve food resilience in our area. The storms and pandemic this year should highlight the need for local food sources. Please provide language that allows people the right to use their property for food production. This can be done safely, cleanly, with minimal noise, especially compared to landscaping machines. That concludes her comment. Next comment is from Allison Mackman, Macmunn. It's regarding hen keeping. It says, for the purposes of food security, I urge DuPage County to allow residents to keep hens by right. It's essential that this is by right. This would allow for food security for our communities and families, especially considering the meat and food shortages recently faced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Permits are undue burdens to allow ourselves to raise our own food responsibly. That concludes her comment. Next comment's from Nate Klinger. It's regarding keeping chickens in unincorporated Elmhurst. It states, we are speaking in support of the right to keep chickens in unincorporated Elmhurst without regulation. We live in unincorporated Elmhurst and have never had any issues with their health or otherwise with our neighbors who have them. We feel that to require a permit or to regulate where on the property they would be allowed would be ridiculous for an unincorporated area. That concludes Mr. Klinger's comment. Next comment is from Linda Clifford. It's regarding raising chickens in DuPage County. It states, as a child, we raised chickens during World War II. We had them for many years. I got eggs from under the hens and candled them for my mother. I never had any ill effects from them, nor did my parents. We ate the eggs and the chickens. I hope you will allow chickens in this area, Linda Clifford. Next comments from Beth Thompson. It's regarding hen keeping. It states, a $400 application charge is outrageous and far out of the scope of many, 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 many families. Families often want to save money by owning chickens to feed their families with eggs, and even if it were just for fun as a hobby. $400 is outrageous. Nobody has that lying around. This is absolute classist legislation and a sad excuse for the county to make a buck. This concludes Ms. Thompson's comment. Next comment is from Kelly Guzewski, G-U-Z-I-E-W-S-K-I. It's regarding chickens. It says everyone should be able to own chickens for personal use. That concludes her comment. Next comment's from Steve Nolan. It's regarding chicken keeping. It says fresher and safer eggs than store-bought, no antibiotics. They also eat bugs and other pests and produce natural fertilizer for your garden. Basically a safer food supply plus fun to watch. That concludes Mr. Nolan's comments. Next comment is from Justin Klancic, K-L-A-N-C-I-C. It's regarding hen keeping. It says $400 is too steep a fee, and it's highly unjustified for you to ask that of any person in the name of hen keeping licensure. There should be no fee. It's ridiculous to posit that an administrative file keeping of this nature would require such an obscene budget. That concludes Mr. Klancic's comment. Next comment's from William Mars, M-A-R-R-S. It's regarding hen keeping. It states, if my family or any other family wants to raise chickens so that they can provide fresh food for there, we should not be taxed for it. Please keep your hands out of our pockets. That concludes Mr. Mars's comment. Next comment's from Carrie Coury, K-H-O-U-R-Y. It's regarding backyard hen keeping. It states, I would love to see backyard hen keeping legalized through all of DuPage County, but believe that the proposed $400 application fee will be cost prohibitive to most families. Please consider a more reasonable fee so that families of all income levels will be able to participate. That concludes Ms. Coury's comment. Next comment's from Pat Schwolowo, S-C-H-W-O-L-O-W. It's regarding chicken keeping. It states, I believe there isn't a downside to chicken keeping. It is good to be self-sustaining, and they help the environment by eating food leftovers so that the landfills don't become overwhelmed. They are less noisy than dogs and are gentle in demeanor. For those reasons, I hope that you allow chicken keeping by right. Thank you. Next comment is from Rona Jordan. It's regarding hen keeping in unincorporated DuPage County. It states, to whom it may concern, I believe the application fee mentioned of $400 does not justify the small administrative work the county have to do. It will also prevent people who can actually use to raise chickens for food at this time when high unemployment is prevalent. That concludes that comment. Next comment's from Emily Prasad, P-R-A-S-A-D. It's regarding hen keeping. It states, I fully support the right of DuPage residents to keep hens. The requirement that the board is considering requiring a plat of survey to apply with large setbacks are onerous. I urge the board to acknowledge the property rights of DuPage residents and remove the plat of survey requirement and consider more reasonable setbacks. It's not reasonable for residents to be able to keep several large dogs as a right and then place so many burdens on keeping a few small hens. Especially during this current pandemic situation, shouldn't the board be prioritizing measures that allow residents to secure their food sources? Burdensome regulations and fees are unnecessary interference on residents' property use. If these measures aren't required for keeping dogs or other pets, they should not be required for keeping a few hens. Next comment's from Diane Cassidy. It's regarding allowing of homestead chickens. It states, homeowners that would like to provide sustainable living should be allowed to have chickens on their property in unincorporated Elmhurst. As with any animal you own, there comes risk, but families who are providing food for their family should not be assumed so illiterate that they would not take necessary precautions. Permits to own chickens seem a bit restrictive, but perhaps an avenue to monitor the situation should one develop. Residents that choose unincorporated areas often do so to avoid the city strict rules, which in Elmhurst resemble an HOA in terms of property allowances. Thank you for your consideration of this homesteading privilege. Next comments from Rebecca Cinnamon Murphy. Cinnamon Murphy, CYNAMON-Murphy, MURPHY. It's regarding chickens. Banning chickens is an antiquated desire for the community to keep out agrarian families for the sake of seeming modern. Would it be okay for the noise and pollution of gas mowers and not the noise and food of chickens? That concludes her comment. Next comments from Janet Nielsen. It's regarding chicken keeping. Thank you for taking the time to consider chicken keeping by right for DuPage County. Chickens are a wonderful addition to our communities. They provide families with fresh eggs and usually a good bit of entertainment. Chicken keeping is also a fun hobby that gets families out of doors and brings focus back to nature. There are also environmental benefits to having chickens. They make their own fertilizer, recycle food scraps, and help naturally control insects and weeds. Having chickens during these stressful times is helpful for the residents of DuPage County. Thanks again for your consideration. That concludes her comment. Next comments from Micah Bennett. It's regarding hen keeping. It states, Dear board members, I write in support of the hen keeping ordinance, quote, by right, close quote, as recommended by the Development Committee. Enacting this measure will responsibly aid residents in efforts towards self-sufficiency and sustainability. Thank you for your consideration. That concludes his comment. Next comments from Vicky Baldino, BALDINO. It's regarding hen keeping. States, I believe everyone should be allowed to keep hens with no additional fees. Dogs are louder than hens, and many people would benefit from hen keeping. That concludes her comment. Next comments from Evan Brown. It's regarding poultry ordinance input. It states, this comment is in support of the poultry keeping by right of all incorporated DuPage County. There are several reasons for my support of such a right. 1, food security. Now more than ever, our families need reliable, healthy food that's easily accessible. Not allowing such a right is infringing on the ability for families to provide adequate nutrition. 2, cultural significance and social development. I, like many families through unincorporated DuPage County, desire to teach children about food security, responsibility, and industriousness through poultry husbandry. Extremely low risk activity. The alarmist claims and myths promoted by many regarding pathogens from poultry are not based in reality or evident through scientific research. What scientific research does say is as follows, quote, overall, the risk of pathogen transmission given backyard chicken keeping appears to be low and does not present a greater threat to the public's health. Does not create a greater threat to the public's health compared with keeping of other animals allowed, such as dogs and cats. Citing Pollock, S. L. Stephen, C. Skoridna, and Korotovsky, it's a 2012 article. Raising chickens in city backyards, the public health role, Journal of Community Health. Further, the CDC notes that those whom are infected with salmonella after having handled poultry are about the same low number as those linked to onions. Our nation and culture prides itself upon the ability to innovate and pick oneself up after being knocked down. We pride ourselves on a strong do-it attitude, the ability to solve our own problems. Allowing poultry keeping by right in unincorporated DuPage County would allow families a greater ability to support themselves and is in alignment with our nation's culture. Poultry keeping should be by right with extraordinarily limited restrictions. I strongly urge the DuPage County Board to allow by right poultry keeping in unincorporated DuPage County. This will promote food security, is aligned to scientific research, and coincides with the cultural fabric as a nation. Should you have any questions or require clarification, please contact me at your leisure. Thank you very much. That concludes the comment.
Thanks, Connor. Member Ozog, you have your hand up. You're on mute, Mary.
Okay, we have been hearing about the chicken issue for over 15 minutes. I believe the rules call for 30 minutes of public participation, 3 minutes per participant. I believe there's also considerable leeway if the materials are repetitive. This is now the third time that I believe we've had public participation about the keeping hens issue. Most of these are supportive. Many feel that fee is too high and that they don't want to have a plat of survey required. Somebody else talked about salmonella. All of this is going to be discussed again when we get to this in our agenda. So what I'd like to propose is that going forward right now, we switch to whatever the next topic may be and give that topic 20 or 25 minutes. And we pull this together so that we are not in this situation for the next hour and a half as has been going on for our previous meetings. This is now repetitive and it's material that we have heard before.
Okay, well, thank you. We're coming up. We're actually at 22 minutes right now. I had talked to the chairman prior. We're going to do 30 minutes and then extend another 30 minutes. So would that be okay at that point? We're just going on the order that they came in, so.
I don't know how many other topics or how many other public participations
I'm sure you
we
do,
have.
Marion. You know there's other topics, so. Connor, how many more chicken things do we have here?
Give me one moment.
Because I do think they're important to member.
I don't
Rutledge.
read these for content at all. I literally get
I
them.
understand that, but almost every single one is now repeating information that we've heard in the past, not just today, but on other occasions. And we're going to be discussing it again. It is an agenda item. So I'd like to move on from this topic because it is becoming repetitive.
The people that might agree their comments aren't relative, I guess, so. Okay. So we're going to let Connor, I see Member Covert has her hand up. Member Covert.
This is a really important topic, and there's a lot of different perspectives, and I really don't want to stifle the public's voices here on such an important issue when it comes to sustainability. So I really think I would like to hear all these comments about hens that, we're going to vote on this really big issue today that has been controversial in the past. So I don't like to stifle public comment and the voices of the people.
Please don't.
So if we could just get through the hen comments, I would really appreciate it.
Can I just make a comment? I don't understand why board members are talking over each other. It's shocking to me that someone would interrupt someone else while they're saying it. I think Member Covert deserves the respect to be able to complete her remarks before someone chimes in.
This is repetitive, and it's the third time that we've heard this material, so we are not learning anything new about the situation.
Okay.
These comments can be attached to the minutes.
Okay, well, we're going to continue our 24 minutes, so we're going to continue with public comment. So, Connor, if you would go forward with what you have there.
Sure. Next comments from Sandy Pufall, SANDI-PUFAHL. It's regarding raising hens by right in unincorporated DuPage. I have been working towards this end for many months, along with many others who believe that it is by right that we can use our hard-earned property to sustain our families. I have signed petitions, written many public comments, so I will not belabor the issue with another epistle. I just want to thank the Development Committee for having faith in the residents of unincorporated DuPage to be responsible and mindful to handle the right to raise hens in the correct and safe way. After many months, this issue has finally come to the board to cast the final vote. You have all the tools, the overwhelming positive public comments, the petition with over 700 signatures, the positive votes of the majority of the Development Committee. I do hope you will listen to the will of the people and vote yes. Thank you, Sandy Pufo. Next comments from Linda Oberg, O-B-E-R-G. It's regarding comments made about Julie Renahan. It states, Mr. Cronin, I am very disturbed about the false comments you made about Julie Renahan. She fought very hard against Sterigenics, and you know it because previously you applauded her for it. This is disgusting that you're using the same tactics of lying for your own political gain that are currently being used by our president. Julie Renahan should have been appointed chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. Your lies about her are shameful. Thank you to Julie Renahan for being a true advocate for the citizens of DuPage County and for fighting against the environmental impacts of ETO production. DuPage County deserves truthful representatives, Mr. Cronin. That concludes her comment. Next comment is from Laura Hall, H-A-U-L-E. It's regarding Chairman Cronin's false statements about Member Renahan. It states, I do not understand why the chairman would make false statements about Member Renahan's service to her district residents. I know Member Renahan, and I know her to be honest, hardworking, bright, and dedicated. She would not take a position to protect a company that was causing death and disease in her district. Since she has been serving as vice chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, Chairman Cronin would have had ample time to bring up any such concerns before now. These statements from him are mistaken at best, and Member Renahan will make an excellent chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. That concludes that comment. Next comments from Gautam Bhatia, G-A-U-T-A-M-B-H-A-T-I-A. It's regarding Cronin's comments about Renahan. It states, I encourage you to act with the best interest of DuPage County residents in mind. That means fairness in appointing committee chairs and refraining from false statements. The strength of a leader is not to appoint yes men or women, i.e. have diversity of thought. If you don't, eventually the tides will turn. Then what? Concludes the comment. Next comments from Eliza Westergaard. It's regarding Mr. Cronin. It says, Mr. Cronin, you should not be pushing your Republican agenda so blatantly and crudely. You need to respect your fellow members. Don't be a Trump puppet. Eliza Westergaard. That concludes her comment. Next comments from James Truesdale. It's regarding DuPage County Chairman replacement. DuPage County Chairman Cronin should be replaced since he does not know how to be a chairperson. A leader does not falsely degrade a committee member, parenthetically Renahan, to gain political advantage. That concludes that comment. Next comment is from Jeffrey Smizek, SZYMCZAK. It's regarding demonstrably false statements 8/11. I have come to expect demonstrably false statements coming out of the White House, but was disappointed to hear Chairman Cronin speak about fellow board member Julie Renahan by lying about her being in support of ETO Productions. It is impossible not to believe the statements were made in an attempt to slander Julie to block her as a viable chair for Health and Human Services positions. An apology is in order to the other members of board, the taxpayers of DuPage County, and especially Ms. Renahan. Don't let the politics of Washington, D.C. become the policies here. If Chairman Cronin needs to rely on falsehoods to lead, he should resign. The next comment's from Ann Daly. It's regarding abuse of power by Chairman Cronin, partisan and divisive. This comment is regarding Chairman Cronin and his clear cronyism, choosing a good old boy network and partisan politics over what's best for DuPage County. There is zero excuse for you to give 3 chairman roles to one of your male Republican buddies rather than more qualified woman who has been vice chair of the committee for some time and then publicly make false statements about her in an attempt to smear a good name. Politics are divisive enough. Please rise above petty partisanship and do the right thing. Remember, Chairman Cronin, you work for us, the taxpayers who pay your salary, and we will remember these shenanigans come November. Next comments from Susan Kane, CAIN. It's regarding Dan Cronin. It says, Dan's mother played tennis with my own for many years. I grew up admiring Mr. Cronin. I was surprised to hear that Chairman Cronin chose a most Trump-like approach, employing deceptive and false information to achieve his political aim. Not good, Dan. My mother will be disappointed. More importantly, the role model you used to be will be correctly voted out in the fall, perhaps a useful lesson for you. Next comments from Janice Kingman, Kingman. It's regarding Health and Human Resources Committee. It states, I am disappointed that the Vice Chairman of the Health and Human Resources Committee was not appointed to be chair when that position was vacated. I think Julie Renahan's experience on the committee would make her the perfect choice for chairmanship. Smearing her because of her fight against Sterigenics was extremely inappropriate. Was there some reason other than putting a Republican as chair that Julie Renahan was not appointed? That concludes the comment. Yes.
Is there a motion to extend public comment an additional 30 minutes? Moved by Mr. Pachowski, seconded by Mr. Larson. Oh. There's no clerk. He just went and stepped out. Here he comes. He's coming right now. I'm sorry. We reached 30 minutes.
Do we need a voice vote or a roll call?
No, we got a roll call.
You'll need a roll call.
Adam's going to be here in a second. That's right. I'm sorry. There's a motion to extend public comment 30 minutes, moved by Mr. Pachowski, seconded by Mr. Larson. Quick roll call, please.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart. Healy. Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Passes.
Okay, passes. Thank you, Connor. Go ahead.
Next comment is from Linda Callas, Kallas. It's regarding voting count in DuPage County. I have read some articles about the upcoming election and called the Election Commission a number of times. I am very concerned that DuPage does not have any tabulating machines to count the large number of ballots expected to be mailed rather than voted in person. If it's too late to get these...
Connor, we're having a hard time hearing you. Sorry, I don't know if your mic moved or something.
Can you hear me now?
Much better.
It's much better.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's much better, but you can at least hear me. I'll start from the top again. Linda Callas with a K, Kallas. It's regarding voting count in DuPage County. It states, I have read some articles about the upcoming election and called the Election Commission a number of times. I am very concerned that DuPage does not have any tabulating machines to count the large number of ballots expected to be mailed rather than voted in person. If it's too late to get these machines, what's the plan for getting these ballots counted in a timely manner? From everything I've read, it doesn't sound like there is a plan. On a side note, having boxes inside early voting places is not anywhere near as helpful as actual drop boxes outside, both from a health perspective and from convenience perspective, as some people may not be able to meet the times when the giving voting places are open. Maybe too late for that, but really disappointing given the amount of time we've had to plan this. That concludes her comment. Next comments from Paul Farber. Sorry, can you hear me? Next comments from Paul Farber. It's regarding unfair smearing of Julie Renahan by Chairman Cronin. Recently, Chairman Dan Cronin has Cronin falsely smeared Board Member Renahan as someone who turned her back on her district in DuPage by not standing up and even supporting Sterigenics and ETO production during one of the worst environmental and health catastrophes we've faced in DuPage. Julie Renahan has been firmly opposed to Sterigenics and its operations since it became known in October 2018 of its releasing ethylene oxide into the atmosphere. As an air pollution control expert, I was appointed by Mayor Frank Trilla Willowbrook as a member of the Willowbrook Sterigenics Task Force. As such, the task force participated in meetings with the Illinois EPA, the US EPA, and the Stop Sterigenics Citizens Group. Julie Renahan was present at public meetings protesting the presence of Sterigenics in DuPage County and has given her full support to their Sterigenics removal from the county. At no time was Board Member Renahan supporting Sterigenics, and it's disgraceful for Chairman Cronin to spread these lies about Julie Renahan. I call upon the DuPage County Board to retract the scurrilous statements about Julie Renahan made by Chairman Cronin and give her the support she deserves. That concludes his comment. Next comments from Colin Brasch, B-R-A-A-S-C-H. It's regarding the megachurch. It states, the idea of a megachurch on Roosevelt provides no benefit and is negative to the people in town of Winfield. They provide no tax income and will undoubtedly increase an already congested area in terms of traffic, making the area less desirable to live in. The fact that the church ceased negotiations with the town and wants a variance from the county for safety codes meant to protect its own congregation and citizens shows the church is only after money at the cost of its own members' lives. Next comment is from Elizabeth Folk, Van Ardsel, FOLK-Van, V-A-N, another word, A-R-S-D-E-L-L. It's regarding Redpath zoning Z20-095. States, we own the property adjacent to the subject property. We oppose granting the requested variances, which would be detrimental to our community. Now, and as a precedent, the well-reasoned zoning standards were known to each of us when we purchased our properties, and accordingly should be respected by us all individually and in whole. Oh, it's quite long. We know no reason that a variance allowing a gross floor area in excess of a maximum permitted by applicable zoning standards should be granted. In addition to the existing gazebo, petitioners seek an accessory structure with a total gross floor area of approximately 2,995 square feet. Such a building styled as a pool house would exceed the size of many family homes in the Naperville-Lisle area and would be wholly incompatible with our community. The petitioners make more than one reference to, quote, detached accessory structure exceeding 5,000 square feet in size on an adjoining property, close quote. This reference structure on our property is an indoor riding arena of less than 5,000 square feet, which was built under prior zoning ordinances. Prior to our purchase of the property in 1998, we requested and received a letter from the DuPage County Development Department stating that this structure is legal non-conforming. This arena is built on a dirt floor, has no interior structures, no facilities other than lighting, no water supply or plumbing, and no heating or air system. The arena has no living space and is in no way comparable to that proposed by petitioners. However, the petitioners citing the arena demonstrates the importance of the precedent which would be established if the petitioners' requested variances were not denied. Likewise, the proposed structure is in no way comparable in structure or proposed use with any of the detached accessory buildings on any of the adjacent properties. Such accessory buildings are generally used for workshops and/or storage. While we note the representations that the proposed structure is intended to be used as a pool house, intentions changes as do owners. The petitioner's assertion that the variation request will facilitate the remodeling of the existing barn into an accessory structure consistent with nearby uses, such as a 5,000 square foot accessory structure on the adjacent property, is false on its face. Please note that the above comments on the size and nature of the riding arena, which are most clearly does not contain a wet bar and office, rooms to change, and hobby rooms for games and activities, or bathrooms, as the petitioners propose. Further, the petitioner's schematic refers not to a pool house, but to a coach house, a two-story structure with a two-car attached garage, a laundry room, a powder room, a bathroom with dual entrances and vanities, and a fireplace, among other amenities. Clearly, these do not support the petitioner's contention that the requested variations are minimal and consistent with the intent of the DuPage County Ordinance. Please deny the petitioner's request in whole and individually. Respectfully submitted, Elizabeth J. Folks Van Artsel, trustee Stephen Van Artsel, Elizabeth Folk Van Artsel Trust. That concludes her comments. The next comment is from Patricia Moto. It's regarding the Health and Human Services chair position. It states, I have recently learned that the recently vacated position of the chair of Health and Human Services Committee is not being given to Julie Renahan, the woman who has ably served as vice chair of that committee for more than a year. While there is no question that Mr. Cronin has the authority to nominate someone of his choosing, what is neither ethical nor moral is articulating a blatant lie to attempt to justify this decision. Stating that Vice Chair Renahan does not oppose Sterigenics, when Mr. Cronin is well aware that she is one of the leading voices in the fight against that business, displays a complete lack of character on his part. We are all in need of honesty and integrity from our elected officials, and I would ask that the DuPage County Board demonstrate these qualities to make sure that the most qualified individuals are placed in significant positions. Next comments from Paula Deacon Garcia. It's regarding Chairman Cronin's comments on Julie Renahan. It states, Chairman Cronin and County Board members, I sat stunned when Chairman Cronin stated a clerical error done by Member Renahan was one of the reasons he did not choose her for chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee. Member Renahan's actions fighting for all residents affected by the poisoning of Sterigenics speak louder than one wrongly checked box, which was corrected within the same day. I have sat in board meetings where her actions were praised by many, including Chairman Cronin. It's very disappointing when leaders like Julie Renahan, who are fighting for a safe environment for the citizens of DuPage, are torn down instead of applauded and chosen to lead to help more through her actions as chairman of the HHS committee. A sad day for the chairman of this board. Next comment is from Curtis Rolfe, R-O-L-F-E. It's regarding remarks made by the chairman at the last board meeting. We have come to expect these kind of remarks from our president, but not the chairman of our county board. It's kind of hard to understand the reasoning to bypass a person already a leader in the committee and give it to someone who already chairs 2 other committees. That concludes his comment. Next comments from Christina Graham. It's regarding DuPage County zoning petition Z20-27 Wheaton Winfield Road LLC. As a Winfield resident, I would like to state my opposition to Willow Creeks of Wheaton's fire safety variance request. This large and profitable nonprofit organization should not be waived of such a safety requirement, particularly when they plan to provide services to massive groups. Further, if Willow Creek of Wheaton wants to proceed with plans to build in Winfield, they should absolutely work with the village on an agreement that is both beneficial to the organization and the village. Winfield cannot continue to be known as a town where businesses, including churches, come to avoid paying taxes. Next comment is from Jeff Kolakowski, K-O-C-O-L-O-W-S-K-I. It's regarding opposition to Willow Creek Winfield proposal. It just says vote no. The next comment is from Stephanie Hull, H-U-L-L. It's regarding Willow Creek Winfield. It states, I am writing to comment that I object to the Willow Creek megachurch that is planning to be built on Mack Road in Winfield. The size of the building and the extent of the asphalt work that will cover the area is troubling for a road that is traditionally associated with Cantini and Blackwell. There seems to be no benefit to Winfield or bordering Wheaton for the construction of this structure, and particularly no tax benefit to Winfield. Additionally, to have ceased discussions with the village regarding municipal water fire coverage to pursue unincorporated status is troubling. The traffic that will be incurred on Mack Road is also less than desirable, and the environmental impact is also a concern. The placement of this megachurch is not appropriate, and given the current state of the country and state in time of a pandemic, a plan for a building for mass gatherings is distasteful. Thank you for your consideration. I hope the concerns of the Wheaton, West Chicago, Winfield communities are a top priority in making any decision to move forward. Next comments from Tony DeFranco, D-E-F-R-A-N-C-O. It's regarding Julie Renahan and Sterigenics. I've protested the despicable conduct of Sterigenics over the years, and Julie Renahan was always there and very involved. To say she wasn't to justify overlooking her for a well-deserved appointment is nothing but a cheap political stunt. Chairman Cronin ought to be ashamed of himself. I'm a good Democrat who does a lot of work for the party. Every election cycle, I'm known for getting literally thousands of signatures for candidates, parenthetically, among other things, but that you can actually check out, close parentheses. Often I do a lot of work in Kane County, but I think now knowing this, I might just concentrate my efforts more in DuPage. Next comments from Eugenia Mulhern, Mulhern. It's regarding a Wheaton megachurch. It states, it's wonderful that a large group of people wants to worship, but please not at the sake of safety and uncooperativeness with the village it wishes to occupy. DuPage County needs to do the right thing by the people of Winfield and the surrounding cities and villages. It would not appear to be an appropriate spot in Winfield with the amount of people and traffic congestion. Wheaton megachurch leaders need to show all their willingness to work with others to make this right together. It's not just a business with ethics out the window. There are expectations for those that claim to be Christian, lead by example, and a footnote 8, but there's no footnote here. Next comments from Mark Ayers, Mark with a C, A-Y-E-R-S. It's regarding support for an ordinance allowing backyard hens. He represents the Humane Society of the United States. The backyard chickens can be wonderful companions. Interest in keeping them has grown as part of a local sustainable organic food movement. The HSUS supports measures that reduce animal suffering, and every animal that gets their eggs from the backyard hens is likely to reduce or eliminate their purchase of eggs laid by hens who are confined to crowded cages on factory farms. We'd like to thank the sponsor for bringing this proposal forward and encourage the DuPage County Board to support this ordinance. Looks like I have another duplicate submission from Mr. Ayers in support of backyard chickens. It appears to be identical to what I just read. Next comments from Carol Davis. It's regarding Renahan. It states, the reason given for passing over Board Member Renahan as chair of the Human Services Committee is shameful and easily disproven by her numerous actions of public service in regards to the fight against Sterigenics. Shame, 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 all in capitals, on all board members who disrespect protocol and lack integrity. Shame, in all in capitals with exclamation points on either side for emphasis. Next comments from Claire Goldenberg. It states, provable lies during the recorded meeting. Chairman Cronin, I am submitting public comment again because I can't sit by and let your behavior go without bringing attention to the fact you are lying to the people of DuPage County and to the voters who elected you to this office and who have entrusted you with the well-being. First, you passed Julie Renahan over for Chair of Health and Human Services, even though she has not missed any meetings and was ready to step up anytime the chair was not able to serve his role, but the reasons you gave publicly were false and easily disprovable. How can you expect us, the people of DuPage, to believe anything you say when during a public meeting you can lie so easily about something as petty as to why you picked a political crony over a qualified candidate to lead a committee? It's shameful and begs the question, what else are you hiding? Julie stood side by side with the people of Willowbrook and DuPage in our fight to end the polluting Sterigenics plants. How dare you indicate that she did not then use that as your reason not to elevate her to the position of chair? All in capitals, we are watching your every move, Mr. Cronin, ... That concludes that comment. Next comments from Joanna Chlystek, C-H-L-Y-S-T-E-K. It's regarding political attack on Member Renahan by Chairman Cronin. Chairman Cronin, I am extremely disappointed that your political attack on Board Member Renahan. It was a dishonest, Trump-like attack, and you should be ashamed for bringing that kind of politics into DuPage County. Board Member Renahan has attended every available protest, gathering, or event to stop ethylene oxide emissions from the Sterigenics Willowbrook facility. Prior and after her election, she would join the efforts in the community to stop the pollution. She has been a featured speaker at countless Facebook live stream posts advocating for the shutdown of Sterigenics. Your comments from the meeting on 8/11 are regarding her support of Sterigenics are patently false. Please retract your comments and apologize to Board Member Renahan. Next comments from Susanna Surletta, S-U-R-L-E-T-A. It's regarding the Wheaton Winfield Road zoning petition Z20-2027. States, I am sending this email as I strongly oppose the Willow Creek of Wheaton's variance request that will violate all fire safety rules. In addition, this project will require clearing 13.5 acres of wooded area within the Winfield area. This will displace much of the wildlife in that area and will require them to find new homes. I'm requesting that the county reject the fire safety variance request and direct Willow Creek of Wheaton to restart discussions with Winfield as this falls within their jurisdiction. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. Next, comments from Steve Leopoldo. It's regarding statements from the 8/11 meeting. It states, Chairman Cronin, Member Renahan has been a steadfast advocate for the people of the 3rd District of DuPage. That advocacy included her constant support of the community as it battled against the release of toxic ethylene oxide, which surrounded our homes, business, and schools. It took a not insignificant amount of time to gather support among local officials to recognize the danger ethylene oxide posed to our community, but this was not the case with Ms. Renahan. She listened and understood the danger and used her voice to build support for the protection of public health. The people of the 3rd District know the truth that Ms. Renahan literally stood by our sides as we fought to protect our community at every level of government. Ms. Renahan deserves an apology for your accusation that she stood with the chemical industry over the people of her district. It's false, and if you had someone do the research and look up her position, then you would know the record shows she slipped in support of the bill after erroneously slipping in opposition. The ACLU of Illinois suggests exactly the course of action Ms. Renahan took for non-account holders to correct a witness slip. Can I make changes to a witness slip I already submitted? If you're not a registered user or not logged on when you submitted your slip, then you will not be able to change any information when you submitted a witness slip. You can submit a new witness slip with your corrected position. The record must be corrected to show that Ms. Renahan was a strong advocate for my community. I urge you to publicly retract your statement. Next comment is from Linda, Linda, Andre, and DRE. It's regarding Willow Creek Fire Safety Variance. It says, no entity should be exempt from following the laws of the city/county. That concludes her comment. Next comments from Kim Savage. It's regarding Chairman's remarks A out Member Renahan. It says, I am disappointed about remarks Chair Cronin made about Member Renahan at the August 11th meeting of the DuPage County Board. Member Renahan has been present and active in the ongoing issues with Sterigenics. As a resident in the area that is impacted by ethylene oxide poisoning, I have had discussions with her and have observed her present at public gatherings where residents voice concerns. She has been present on press conferences, except on the occasion where she was not invited by the Republican elected officials who organized the event. Please stop your partisan games. While you have publicly accused Democrat members of playing politics, you and your Republican cronies have been playing them for years. You are better than this, and we expect you to do better than this. Next comments from Anna Schiefelbein, Schiefelbein, the usual way. It's regarding Julie Renahan as a trusted member of the BAN ETO community in DuPage. It states Julie Renahan has supported and continues to support the BAN ETO community. She has a history of publicly commenting on this issue. She has been to protests and she has worked hard. Julie Renahan is a trusted member of the BAN ETO community in DuPage. I do not understand why Dan Cronin has treated this member in this way. He also shows that he is not involved with the community, with the members and their interests. Had he known that Julie was part of the BAN ETO community, would he have made those statements? Next comments from Melanie Grusenmeyer, Grussenmeyer. It's regarding hen keeping. States, I think we can all agree that DuPage County Board has many pressing issues to deal with right now, and we've seen an overwhelming amount of support for this. In June, the Development Committee heard over 20 comments in favor and 2 opposed. Last month, the ZBA heard over 50 comments in favor, 1 opposed. There have been many public comments in support at the DuPage County Board meetings. You've seen over 700 signatures from DuPage residents in support of the petition. Oh my, this is quite long. The support is overwhelming, and the opposition is almost non-existent. Come up with a recommendation that gives property owners the clear and simple right to keep hens rather than conditional use. 3 years ago, my family decided to get hens in unincorporated Wheaton. We believe strongly in teaching our kids about where their food comes from and have many neighbors who have chickens already, so we're under the impression that they were allowed. The code is written in a way that doesn't expressly forbid hens, but reads anything that is not specifically allowed as prohibited. This leads to a lot of confusion and a common misconception that hens are allowed. We were shocked when we got a violation notice and petitioned for a variance that allowed us to keep them through 4-H. The ZBA approved us 5-2, but this committee voted it down. Our backyard, thank you, Joe. Our backyard backs up to 8 different backyards from a townhome development. Because there was a public hearing, the HOA from this development, which we are not a part of, put together a campaign to squash our petition. Coincidentally, our main opposer used to serve on the zoning board for the city of Wheaton, and his attorney's son, who represented them, was clearly familiar with the members of the board. We never know exactly why this committee voted down the recommendation from the ZBA, but it's a clear illustration of how a HOA or neighbors who are opposed to hens can use their influence to prohibit a property owner from keeping them. I saw it firsthand. We also had to submit a plaintiff survey, which cost $400. By allowing this, allow this right, minimize the bureaucracy, minimize the dollars wasted by citizens on unnecessary survey plats, minimize the tax dollars wasted by adding this extra step to a process that shouldn't be this complicated. I'd also like to address the memo circulated by the Health Department regarding Salmonella. Their concern and communication of CDC guidelines that recommend hand washing are absolutely important. The CDC also lists 18 diseases that dogs can carry and transmit to humans, Salmonella being one of them. Does the county board want to also restrict homeowners from having dogs? Does this initiative? This initiative is to allow homeowners in unincorporated areas of DuPage County only. There currently are 15 municipalities that are allowed to keep hens. Did the health department also issue a memo to all those municipalities? Those have not had salmonella outbreaks. They have communicated the guidance of hand washing and hygiene when handling eggs to minimize this risk. Again, simplify this process. Allow by right, communicate the CDC guidelines. Don't make people jump through hoops. Don't waste taxpayer money on unnecessary steps. 3 years ago, I was told not to fight the county on this, that the board was anti-chicken and I would not be wasting my time. That I would be wasting my time. I'm not going anywhere. The 700 residents who signed this petition aren't going anywhere. Get it right by giving us a simple solution so that the county board can focus on other issues. That concludes that comment. The next comment's from Jennifer Kfoury, Kfoury. It's regarding Julie Renahan's smear by Cronin. It states it was disappointing enough that member Renahan was passed over to chair of Health and Human Services Committee after being its vice chair for more than a year. It was clearly a move by the old Boyd's Club on the board to maintain their status quo. Now what I cannot tolerate is blatant lying about her record with regard to Sterigenics misconduct in Willowbrook, which was brought to light last year. Chairman Cronin knows fully well that she worked tirelessly to ensure that DuPage residents would be safe from the risk of ETO production at that plant. By stating the contrary on the August 11th board meeting is a clear attempt to smear and distract us from the lack of proper leadership and bipartisan work that this body is guilty of. I demand an apology from Chairman Cronin to Member Renahan and promise that these types of political antics will stop. There is too much important work to be done, and as a citizen, I am fed up with your games. Next comment's from Joe Amore. It's regarding degradation of a fellow board member. It states, I believe, and that's AMORE. It states, I believe County Chair Cronin is unable to continue as chairman due to his exerting undue influence on his promotion of committee chairs without regards to line of advancement and for his record disparagement of board members who are not aligned with him politically. This behavior robs the citizens of DuPage County of effective leadership and causes disharmony on the board and throughout his administration. That concludes the comment. Next comment's from Michael McGee, MCGEE. It's regarding the Wheaton-Winfield Road LLC zoning petition Z20-27. As a resident of DuPage County and Winfield, previously a full-time firefighter paramedic for the city of Elgin, and since 1995 a licensed architect in the state of Illinois, I find it ludicrous that Willow Creek Church has the nerve to ask for a variance to ignore the county's fire safety regulations. An organization that purports to be a church should understand that a true church cares about all people no matter what, not looking to cut costs by eliminating elements of the life-saving fire code from this project. It's enough that they do not care about the environment with the desecration of the site they will be building on. Further lack of caring for their members with the elimination of elements of the fire code is an embarrassment to an LLC that worships the almighty dollar and pretends to worship God and life. Next comment's from Matt Tribble, Tribble. It's regarding Willow Creek Church of Wheaton. Objection. It states, I am writing to object to the request for a variance for Willow Creek Church of Wheaton. Please ensure that there is compliance with local ordinances for the property. That concludes his comment. Next comment is from Jan Rebmann, Rebmann. It's regarding chicken keeping in unincorporated DuPage County. It states, please allow chicken keeping by right to minimize government involvement in how we feed our families. Allow by right to reduce taxpayer dollars from being wasted bureaucratic processes. CDC guidance regarding proper handling to reduce salmonella risk, but don't use that as a reason not to act. The CDC also lists 18 diseases that can be transmitted by dogs. DuPage already has over 15 municipalities in it that allow for hens without any salmonella outbreaks. They are safe, quiet, and clean pets. Act now on this. We've already seen how fragile our food supply is, and we don't know what the future holds, and people should have the right to have quiet hens on their property. That concludes their comment. Next comment's from Chris Wasserstrom, Wasserstrom. It's regarding megachurch. It says strongly oppose. That concludes the comment. Next comment is from Donata Kalanaite, Kalnenaite. It's regarding hen keeping by right. It states, I would like to express my support of hen keeping by right in DuPage. I support this initiative due to the following reasons. One, hen keeping by right will reduce the taxpayer dollars that would otherwise be wasted on the other solutions proposed, the fact that our government already has enough to deal with, including a pandemic, education of children, food insecurity solutions, etc. We have to go to the county every time we want to purchase a chicken and fill out paperwork and go through weeks of approvals, hearings, etc. That will just waste time and money. The time and money wasted wouldn't just be of the person wanting to get chickens, but also of our governmental resources. Many families do not have the ability to leave work just to go through the unnecessary hearings, and this option will discourage many and will frustrate the rest. What we do on our land is our business, and it shouldn't have to go through miles of red tape just to feed our families. Second, the idea that somehow we're all going to be victims of salmonella is pretty unfounded as well. First, hens that live in giant warehouses with millions of other hens in a commercial facility are more likely to be susceptible to disease than a few hens living in a shelter at a private residence. Furthermore, dogs can spread many more diseases and are much more dangerous to human health than chickens and dogs are allowed. I understand that people should be educated on food safety. That solution is education, not prohibition. If it's safe to sell eggs at a store, it's safe to raise chickens at a home. Our food supply is getting increasingly fragile. The fact that if you go to a store right now, prices have risen and less products are available. As the pandemic accelerates, we need to have a way to feed our families in this uncertain time. Eggs are a wonderful source of nutrition, and residents should be allowed to grow their own food. It is clear that the overwhelming majority of DuPage residents support hen keeping by right. It is also clear that we have no shortage of volunteers and activists in our county that will work and raise their voices in support of this issue. Please support the will of the people in DuPage by allowing hen keeping by right. Thank you. Next comments from Elizabeth Hoffman. It's regarding chickens in DuPage. It states, as a resident of your district, I am asking you to revisit your current regulations about hen keeping in DuPage County. We have never had chickens of our own, but have hen sat for many families in our neighborhood. These hens that live in our area have never been a bother to me. Never had the noise, smell, or disease that is often cited as a reason to not keep the chickens has never been an issue. We fully support hen keeping in DuPage, as many other neighboring counties allow. Access to grow and sustain food on your own property is a right in which our country was founded. This is especially important for food insecure families who want to be self-reliant. If you haven't experienced a neighborhood hen house, I encourage you to go see one for yourself and make a fully educated decision about hen keeping in DuPage. Thank you for your consideration. Next comments from Thomas Trujillo, Trujillo. It's regarding hens. States, how is it that we're allowed to be building all these big warehouses, but we're being told we can't own chickens? That concludes his comment. Next comments from Evan Depew, DEPUE. It's regarding DuPage County zoning petition Z20-227. It's Wheaton Winfield Road LLC, opposition to fire safety variance request. I am writing to state my opposition to Willow Creek of Wheaton's fire safety variance request in reference to the DuPage County zoning petition Z20-27. Wheaton Winfield Road LLC. It's absurd that a giant megachurch would be exempt from fire safety regulations. It's bad enough they plan on destroying much of the wooded charm of this area by building a giant asphalt slab. This will certainly drive some away from the area, as it takes away from what makes Winfield so unique and special. However, to ask for a variance to fire code is even worse. Don't destroy Winfield's charm. We just bought our house here in Winfield in 2019, and the number one reason was because of the wooded environment here. I'd like my soon-to-be-born daughter to be able to enjoy the same sights and smells we fell in love with when moving here just last year. That concludes his comment. Next comments from Carol DiCola, DICOLA. It's regarding Health and Human Services Committee Chair should be Vice Chair Julie Renahan. Cronin stopped spreading false information about DuPage residents about Julie Renahan, who has stood up against Sterigenics. Julie Renahan has been Vice Chair for Health and Human Services for 1.5 years. Julie Renahan should transition to Chair once the vacancy is made. Why are you punishing Julie Renahan? I don't get this personal vendetta you have against women. I have been to a meeting or two in the past, so I'm speaking from experience. The rules of committee transition should have nothing to do with you, Cronin. If you have a vice chair of a committee for 1.5 years, they should automatically get the chair position. My concern is that you're enabling a hostile environment that just doesn't need to be. Why are you doing this? It seems like a pretty straightforward decision to me. You purposefully lied to DuPage residents for your own personal or someone else's gain. All in capital, just stop it. DuPage residents deserve better. That concludes the comment. Next comment is also from Karen DiCola. It's incomplete. It just says Health and Human Services Committee C, and there's no comment. Next comments from Peter Jewitz, Jewicz. It's regarding proposed Willow Creek Church on Winfield Road. States, as a resident of Winfield, I am opposed to having a new megachurch constructed on Winfield Road. I don't believe the benefits it brings to our community outweighs the burden it places on the taxpayers. Further, I find it dishonest and unscrupulous for the church leadership to attempt to skirt county ordinances and potentially put members of the community and our fire department in danger. They've already displayed their willingness to disregard the community they serve and attempt to ignore important safety guidelines, and I, for one, don't want that type of organization in my community. Next comment is from Tom Chlystek, Chlystek. Says he's an alderman of the city of Darien. It states chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee of DuPage County. Dear Chairman Cronin, I would like to express my extreme disappointment on behalf of the residents of the city of Darien, along with the surrounding communities of Willowbrook, Burr Ridge, Hinsdale, and Westmont, that DuPage County Board President Cronin decided to play internal politics by distorting the record of Julie Renahan. As one of the founding members of the Stop Sterigenics group, I witnessed firsthand Julie meeting with residents, advocating for residents, and protesting on behalf of residents. In many of these circumstances, she was the only board member I could rely on for support. Actually, the only member our community could rely on for getting a Class 1 carcinogen out of our air. I strongly encourage you to reconsider the appointment of Julie Renahan for chairman of the Health and Human Services Committee. The new chairman currently chairs 2 other committees and in no way would have the time, resources, or commitment to do all 3. With COVID-19 pandemic ravaging businesses, our community's health, Julie has been at the forefront of keeping my residents informed where to get tested and what current numbers are in DuPage County. When it comes my residents' safety and health, I want someone with a real record and real results, and that person is Julie Renahan, signed Alderman Tom Chlystek, City of Darien.
Yes, Member Zay.
We're well over an hour now, so we extended it another 30 minutes.
Excuse, yeah, here's, Member Colfort said that she wanted to hear all the public comments. She felt it was important to listen to all the public comments, so maybe we should extend it till they're all through.
I have 10 left.
10 left. Well,
10 left, yeah.
Well, in the spirit of cooperation, this is becoming redundant, and I've heard the same email that I know Member Ozog had said that was redundant on hens. We've had 27 comments on hens. We've had 25 on Member Renahan. So I would think in the spirit that Member Ozog would second my motion, so then that we've heard this is redundant, we're hearing nothing new on this. So I would move to close public comment at this time.
There's been a motion and a second from Member Rutledge.
Discussion, please.
Discussion, Member Chaplin.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, we just heard Member Covert say that she felt that all public comment was important and that, on the hen issue and on whatever other issue. We have 10 more public comments. Why don't we just get through them? And then why don't we go ahead at the end of the meeting and set our agenda to go through our board rules to make solid changes to our public comment so that we can be sure it's done in an appropriate and fair manner. So I would say that we listen, that's my comments on that. So I'll be voting no to end public comment right now.
There's been a motion and a second. Further discussion, Mr. Member Pachowski.
I agree. We go back and forth depending on what the political issue is, but I'm all for reading all public comment, because if somebody took the time to read it, whether it's political, non-political, whatever, then we should read it all. So we have 10 more to go. We'll take more time debating this motion than it would be for Connor to read the 10. But I think to be open and transparent, we'll read them all, and a half an hour is not enough time when we have so many people coming online. Yet if you come the day of the meeting, it's okay. So I don't mind spending my afternoons here if public comment is that important, and it is to me.
Hear, hear.
And just for the record, Mr. Chairman, I know there's been some insinuation, but our staff logs these in. There's a list here of when they come in, what day they come in, what time they come in. So if anybody's saying that anybody's trying to stack this so comments are done in a certain way, they're completely incorrect. They are read in the order they come in to the county via email. So we had people submitting things at 8:11 all the way up until yesterday. So if anybody's saying that we're trying to rig the process, we're not. We go in order of how they come in.
And
they're named here, they're numbered, they have exactly what the subject is on the list. So,
Member Dessart seeking recognition.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Member Pachalski. I think that if our constituents took the time to write to us, it's our job, it's our duty to listen to them. Thank you.
well,
do have a motion and a second.
Well, I'm going to withdraw the motion. We
Okay.
can listen to the 10.
So we got 10 more to go. That's fine. Please proceed, Mr. McCarthy.
Next comments from Jennifer McConaughey, MCCONAHY. It's regarding Ms. Renahan. It says, Dear Mr. Cronin, please let the record show that Ms. Renahan was a constant and fierce advocate against Sterigenics toxic ethylene oxide pollution. She was present at almost every protest, community event, and town committee meetings, and all meetings organized by the EPA. She was very vocal on her stance against Sterigenics on all of her social media accounts. It's easy to see this public information. She never wavered her support to end the environmental nightmare for the surrounding community. Next comment. That concludes the comment. Pardon me. Next comments from Lauren Kaesberg, Kaeseberg. It's regarding Renahan Sterigenics. From day one of our fight against Sterigenics, Julie Renahan was there. She stood by our community from the very beginning. Whether it was at a small community meet your neighbor event or a court date or a public forum, Julie was there. Those of us who are part of Stop Sterigenics know exactly who was truly with us. We know who showed up when there was a megaphone to speak into, and we know who never or barely showed up. Different members of your board fall into all those categories, and you all know where you fall. Julie and Liz Chaplin were steadfastly in the category of being there always and in every way, no matter what acknowledgement they received or did not receive. I just have to say, watching Chairman Cronin's comments sicken me. Partisan, wrong, unjust, not factual, slanderous, sexist. Stop Sterigenics has had the full support always of Julie Renahan. Now those of us who actually fought that fight have Julie's back. There could be no one better than Julie Renahan to chair that committee. It's shameful to pull this stunt. Shame on you, Mr. Cronin. Next comments from Mark Leinbach, Leinbach. It's regarding Willow Creek Megachurch in Winfield. It states, unless they plan to contribute taxes to Winfield, I'm a firm no. This would not be in the best interest of our community. I also support the opposition to Willow Creek's of Wheaton's fire safety variance request. Mark Leinbach, Leinbach. He put his full contact information if anyone has any questions. Next comments, appoint Julie Renahan to Health and Human Services Chair. It says, Dear DuPage County Board, Member Julie Renahan is well-deserving and qualified to be, it's from Lester Vaughn, Vaughan. It's regarding appoint Julie Renahan to Health and Human Services Chair. It says, Dear DuPage County Board, Member Julie Renahan is well-deserving and qualified to be appointed to the Health and Human Services Chair. Member Julie Renahan was a fierce advocate against Sterigenics. She supported the work of the Stop Sterigenics group and surrounding communities from a personal and elected official capacity. She worked tirelessly to ensure everyone in DuPage would be safe from the risk of ETO production. Member Renahan will continue that good work as the Health and Human Services Chair. Best regards, Lester Vaughn, Alderman, Darien. Next comments from Rihanna Bacan, Bachan. It's regarding Mr. Cronin's inappropriate behavior. It states, Mr. Cronin, I cannot fathom how anyone can accuse Julie Renahan of anything less than an advocate for the safety of her community members. This comes from nearly every protest, court appearance, and community meeting where she stood by our side and made herself available as a supporting voice in our community to fight against Sterigenics for their toxic pollution. The Stop Sterigenics team knows exactly who supported our efforts and who did not. Julie was in the fight, and your comments were not only rude and not accurate, but inappropriate. We will be waiting for your public apology, not just to her, but for the falsehoods you tried to spread in our community. Patiently waiting, Rihanna Bacan. Next comments from Amy Field. It's regarding allow chickens by right. It states, as a matter of personal freedom, personal property owners in unincorporated DuPage County should be entitled to utilize their land in order to provide food for their family, including the ability to raise chickens in their backyard. This should be allowed by right, without additional government involvement or unnecessary bureaucratic processes. The point of having chickens is easy access to healthy proteins with the utilization of practical poultry keeping methods. Chickens are a safe addition to the backyard. There's a plethora of information available on how to keep poultry in a safe manner. Just like owning a dog, there are things to know, learn, and do. Simple hand washing after handling chickens or anything else in the yard is the best way to prevent any type of illness. Next comments from M. Srikant Rao, Srikantrao. It's regarding no subject. It says, Chairman Cronin, nearly 2 years ago, our communities discovered the danger that was Sterigenics. We rose together to fight this battle as one. No parties, no politics, no gamesmanship. People on all sides of the political spectrum united to do what no one else has done in this state or very rarely in this country. We stopped a multinational billion-dollar corporation from poisoning our community in record time. We were successful because we put politics aside and worked together. I met Julie Renahan at our first protest. She was there from day one, providing support, advice, and help wherever and whenever it was needed. Your public accusation that Julie Renahan did not support our movement is not only false, it was a betrayal of the team effort put forth to protect our community. While an apology in order, more needs to be done to make this right. We are in the midst of another health crisis. It's time to rise above partisan gamesmanship and work together. Julie Renahan should be given her rightful chairmanship effective immediately. I'm Srikant L. Rao. Next comment is from Melissa Alvarado. It's regarding Sterigenics. It states, as a founding member of Stop Sterigenics, I would like to call out the blatant lie that County Chair Cronin has fabricated about member Julie Renahan. To say that Julie Renahan turned her back on her district in DuPage County, not by standing up and even supporting Sterigenics, by not standing up to and even supporting Sterigenics, is completely false. No one knows better than we do what elected officials helped shut down Sterigenics and which didn't. I know for a fact and without a doubt that Julie Renahan supported Stop Sterigenics group every step of the way, both officially and personally. Julie Renahan's support was invaluable to our work, and Julie advocated tirelessly for the people of DuPage County. To say otherwise is unfair, inaccurate, and erroneous. DuPage County residents deserve honorable and hardworking leaders like Julie Renahan who focus on the work and the people, not divisive political games. Next comments from Edgar Pell. It's regarding county board meeting on August 11th. It says, I watched the video of the last county board meeting held on August 11th. Clearly the meeting was very lively with several board members putting their passions and energy on full display. I was quite disappointed to see Chairman Cronin interrupt and prevent Member Dessart from speaking during the debate about Member Tornatore's appointment as HHS chair. He advised Member Dessart to collect herself before instructing that her microphone be turned off. She was simply being as passionate about her work as any other member of the board, and I did not think there was a need for anyone to collect oneself during that meeting. Member Dessart would have made a cogent points had she be allowed to speak. Member Ozog was also reminded during this meeting to refrain from repetitive comments, which confused me because Member Ozog seemed to be raising a wide variety of relevant and helpful points during the debates. While I disagree with some of Member Ozog's arguments during that meeting, I do appreciate that she had wide latitude to express her views. Lastly, I'm not sure if Chairman Cronin is aware of this, but we can observe him swiveling in his chair via the video feed, especially during the more contentious portions of the meeting that elicit strong statements from both parties. I'm sure the chairman wasn't distracted or bored, as there were many energetic moments. I also do not presume that he was disinterested in anyone's comments, as he does seem to take concerns from both sides of the aisle quite seriously. I am sure that the chairman has much to express, but because he swivels so much, we cannot see the full extent of his demeanor and enthusiasm. If I may, I'd like to suggest that Chairman Cronin's chair be switched from a swivel chair to a fixed chair. Studies show that because fixed chairs allow for little to no movement, the sitter usually compensates for this by using additional body gestures that reveal his or her true attitudes or feelings. Because the chairman plays such an important role in our government, DuPage County residents deserve a more thorough opportunity to hear and observe his true insights, whether he communicates them through the spoken word or physical gesticulation. His ability to move should be curtailed, and his chair swivel functionality should be disabled. Next comment is from Ursula Tanouye, Tanouye. It's regarding false statements about board member Julie Renahan. The partisan politics of using a minor error to smear a colleague is deeply disturbing. Julie Renahan strongly supported her constituents in the 3rd District from the time we all learned about Sterigenics. She was there standing with her 3rd District neighbors in large forums and on short notice demonstrations. Julie Renahan didn't look for credit. At one particularly cold winter gathering, she made sure grassroots activists were front and center when television cameras were rolling while she and Liz stepped back to support us. Perhaps the chairman might have known this had he bothered to attend such events. Instead, he cited a clerical error to smear his colleague. Such behavior should never have left the schoolyard. I'm disappointed but not surprised that working for the people of DuPage takes a backseat to partisanship when the chairman has a political opportunity to put someone down. I expect better from my elected representatives. That's all the public comment I have.
Okay, very good. That concludes our public comment. We move on to the order of consent. Is there a motion?
Remove items A and B. Clerk's office said they were published before they had finalized the minutes, so we need to.
I'm having trouble hearing.
We can't hear.
Okay, there's a motion by member Zay to remove items A and B on the consent item. Is there a second? So a second. So all those in favor say aye. Hoagland, aye. The ayes have it. The items are removed. Please proceed, Mr. Zay.
Now just a vote on the main consent item.
Okay. There's a motion and a second on the consent items. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Zay.
Aye.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart. Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. On to the order of finance, member Bob Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to combine agenda items A through E, which are acceptance and appropriations of grants and
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that. A through.
A through E, which are acceptance and appropriations of grants and memoranda of agreement with the International Union of Operating Engineers.
There's a motion and a second to combine items A through E. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, aye. The ayes have it. The items are combined. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would then move approval of A, which is FIR 44520, acceptance and appropriation of the Illinois Department of Human Services Emergency Solutions Grant in the amount of $50,683. The additional funding for the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Trade Adjustment Grant in the amount of $119,433. The Victims of Crime Child Advocacy Center Program Services Grant in the amount of $100,630. An authorization for memorandum and agreement with the International Union of Operator Engineers Local 150 Public Works employees, and then another memorandum with the same group for Division of Transportation employees.
On a motion and a second, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart. Healy.
Aye. Healy.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move approval of FIR 47020, placing names on payroll.
Is there a request for leave?
We can't.
Do that, I forgot.
Can't do it.
Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart. Healy.
Healy, aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would then move approval of, or move to combine agenda items G through L, which are various purchase approvals, recommendations for the annual appropriation. So,
On a motion and a second to combine items
Can we
G
pull H,
through L.
please?
okay. G, I, J, K, and L.
Okay. G, accepting H, I, J, K, and L. Is there a motion to combine those?
That's my motion, Mr.
It's a
Chairman.
motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. Please proceed on those items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then I would move approval of FIR 47120, approval of issuance of payments to small businesses under the Small Business Relief Grant Program in the amount of $371,961. FIR 47620, ratification of emergency procurement of goods in the amount of $127,567.50. FIR 47720, recommendation for a revision to the annual appropriation ordinance for the DuPage Board of Health Operations. FIR 47520, temporary revision and revision to Personnel Policy Manual 5.46 time, and FIR 47420, budget transfers for various companies and accounting units.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart. Healy.
Aye. Healy.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would then move approval of FIR 47220, approval of media purchase and expenses for the DuPage COVID-19 Tourism Promotion and Business Attraction Program.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Seconded. Okay, doesn't seem to be anybody seeking recognition. Mr. Zay.
Mr. Chairman, I just can't vote for this. I didn't vote for it before, and if you look at it, we're going to pay $50,000 to a celebrity spokesperson for that, $10,000 for a celebrity chef. We just saw what happened with Will County, not there being set back. Restaurants are closing down. We can't get our kids back to school here in DuPage, but we want to promote tourism and bring people in. We just heard from the health department about people not going out in groups. I just don't understand. It just doesn't make sense, and I just can't vote for this.
Okay, fair enough. Member Dessart seeking recognition.
Thank you. Ditto, exactly what Member Zay said.
Write that down. Mark the calendar.
Okay, anyone else seeking recognition? Member Covert. Member Covert.
Yeah, I had a question. Didn't we just have a similar item for advertising on the agenda before for 500,000, or was it 50,000? It was some large, significant amount of money that was going towards advertisement. So I just wanted to know, why is this on our agenda again?
Yeah, we have Nick Kottmeyer here. He can address this matter, I believe.
I think Greg Bedloff or Beth Marchetti on the line, but are you talking about the $1 million that was allocated toward?
Nick, we can't hear you that well. You're tall.
Are you talking about the $1 million that was allocated for the Convention Visitors Bureau? Out of
Yes,
that?
it was going towards the advertising.
Yes, there was $1 million allocation, and then this is then the action items from that allocation.
Thank you.
In other words, if I could just clarify that, Mr. Chairman, as you know, as we've gone through the process of allocating CARES Act money, I've tried to provide the board with opportunity to provide input on the various proposals in categories of money that we would spend, and then for most of those items, we come back to the board with a formal proposal after agreement of the board to allocate the funds so that we can actually see the nuts and bolts of it. And I think that's what we're doing here. We approved the concept of it a couple weeks ago, and now this is the actual nuts and bolts proposal of how the money would be spent.
Okay, further discussion, Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Chairman. My understanding, I thought that $1 million was going to Choose DuPage, and then they were going to work with they were using some of it for their own advertising about businesses being open in DuPage and shop DuPage, and then some was going to tourism.
I don't know if Greg Bedeloff is still tuned in to our meeting here, but I believe you're right, Member Krajewski.
Because I had the same question. I didn't ask it earlier today, Nick, when you presented all the buckets, but you had that bucket of $1 million going to tourism on the Excel spreadsheet. I was going to raise it after the meeting with you, but I thought that was going to Choose DuPage, and we were doing an intergovernmental with them.
That's what it says on the Exhibit A, is it's the Choose DuPage Business Attraction Campaign budget.
Choose DuPage is managing this money. There's no question about that.
They're partners in this, absolutely.
But some of the money, or maybe even majority of the 50%, is being used by Choose DuPage, not the Visitors Bureau.
It's a joint campaign that two of them are working together on, and I know that the two groups are tied very closely in how this moves forward, benefiting both the small businesses, attracting businesses, as well as tourism.
Yeah, because I agree kind of with Member Zay, except for the business attraction, recruiting businesses, advertising businesses to DuPage, and we're open for business. I think we need that. And I think Board Member Elliott's probably raising his hand, has something to talk about. So
yeah,
I'll yield to him.
Member Elliott.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Brian, you correctly predicted what I was going to say. This is our economic development partners working together. So it's Choose DuPage, it's the Convention Bureau, it's the county working together to find a way to market the fact that we are open for business in DuPage County. We've got a lot of people that have been hurting in the hospitality industry. Many of them historically have been among our most vulnerable economically. And this is a great way to try to promote the fact that many of those businesses are up and running and operating safely right now. So I think this is something that's critical for us to approve. I also want to give a shout out to our staff for actually changing the name of this program When it came before us before, it was called the Tourism Promotion and Business Attraction Relief Fund. I'll let the other members of the board figure out that acronym, which they changed.
Yes, Member Larson.
Just to close on this, if I can. So, and I certainly understand the concerns about both the expenditure of these funds as well as the health concerns. But I do think, and Greg Bedloff and I were on WBBM on Sunday talking about the devastating impact this has had on our business community and in particular on our tourism community. He mentioned that there were hotels that had staffs of over 300 that have been operating on skeleton staffs of 10. And at some point, we need to recover from that. We need to recover from that for our own budgetary concerns, but far more importantly for the concerns of the constituents and people of this county when this business comes back. And when it does come back, and it will, we are going to be competing with surrounding counties. We are going to be competing with the city of Chicago for that business. This is our opportunity to place our stamp and say, you want social distancing, you want an opportunity to run a business in a safe and healthy environment, one provided by our sheriff and our fine public safety system. This is the place to be, and I think we need to position ourselves in that regard going forward into 2021, and this is an opportunity to do that.
Well said, well said. Further discussion, Mr. Pachowski?
Develop, and there was a presentation to the committee, and I hope that other board members who are on the committee saw that presentation, because that was what changed my mind, and I think it's something that needs to get done. So I think that the presentation really laid out the need for this.
Okay, well, thank you. Anyone else seeking recognition? Seeing none, hearing none?
Krajewski has his hand up.
Oh, Mr. Krajewski, forgive me. Sorry, please proceed.
We're having real trouble hearing remotely, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you have to talk into your mic clearly and succinctly. All right, we'll try to make a better effort in that regard, Member Elliott. Member Krajewski seeking recognition.
Just last thing real quick. I mean, I'm really supportive of Choose DuPage and marketing DuPage County as a place for businesses to come. And, you know, we're seeing businesses wanting to leave downtown Chicago now because of things that are going on there and, you know, even other parts of the country. And they've done a good job in the past of recruiting, you know, firms from around the country that want to relocate. And one of the reasons they come out here is because of DuPage and our good schools, our, you know, low crime rate. And I think just giving Choose DuPage the money to be able to market, especially when businesses are looking to relocate, you're seeing it in the news all the time, that we want to be ready to accept them and show them the great things we have to offer here in DuPage. So I'm fully supportive of this. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else seeking recognition? Seeing none, hearing none. Mr. Larson, do you have anything to close?
No, I nothing further. Thank you.
Okay. All right. There's been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan. Aye. Ozog.
No.
Pachowski. Aye. Renahan.
No.
Rutledge. Aye. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. No. Chaplin.
No.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
No.
DeCiani. Aye. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
No.
Krajewski.
Aye.
12 voting aye, 6 voting nay. The resolution will be adopted. Thank you very much, Mr. Larson.
Okay, now I've got to figure out where I am again. Move FIR 47820 intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and the DuPage Regional Office of Education for the reimbursement of eligible COVID-19 expenses.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan. Aye. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Aye. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Aye. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Aye. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Mr.
Aye.
Chairman, did Member
DeCiani.
Desart have comments on this?
I'm sorry, Member Desart, I'm sorry I didn't see you before the roll call was taken.
That's okay. You can finish the roll, then I'll make my comment.
Okay.
DeCiani.
Aye.
Okay.
Is that completed?
Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. Member Desart.
Thank you. We talked about this at some length during the finance meeting, but this is for internet access for low-income students throughout the county. And I just wanted to commend Member Krajewski and Member Renahan again for bringing this initiative to us because I think it's really important. So thank you to them. That was my only comment.
Okay, very nice. Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then move approval of FIR 47920 awarding resolution issued to DuPage Regional Office of Education for the reimbursement of eligible COVID-19 expenses.
And a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan.
Aye.
Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski.
Aye.
Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott. Elliott.
He said aye, but he's muted, but he said aye.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. Mr. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then finally, move approval of FIR 48020 recommendation for the approval of payment to DuPage County Health Department for COVID-19 eligible expenses in the amount of $570,431.07.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Larson.
Aye.
Noonan.
Aye.
Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Larson. A fine report. On to the order of development. Member Sam Tornatori.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve DCO 53-20 Ordinance C 1983. Carlos, this is to approve a zoning relief rezoning from R3 residential to O office. The ZBA voted to deny this. The Development Committee also voted to deny this. Because we make our motions in the affirmative, an aye vote will overturn the ZBA and the Development Committee's position. A nay vote will affirm it.
Second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Tornatori.
No.
Zay. No. Chaplin.
No.
Covert.
No.
Desart.
No.
DeCiani. No. Eckhoff. Elliott.
No.
Hart.
No.
Healy.
No.
Krajewski.
No.
Larson. No. Noonan. No. Ozog. Ozog.
No, I was doing so well today.
Pachowski. Renahan.
No.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
No.
Okay. The resolution fails. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mr. Chairman. I move to approve action item T-1-20, a text amendment to the DuPage County zoning ordinance, adding to all single-family residential sections a language relative to permitted use to have hens on the property by right. This is an amendment from the Zoning Board of Appeals, which gave this as a conditional use. It was amended at Development Committee to change the ability to have hens on your property from a conditional use to a matter of right.
Second.
On a motion and a second, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Tornatori.
No.
Zay. Aye. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
No.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Aye. Noonan.
Aye.
Ozog. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
13 voting aye, 5 voting nay.
13 voting aye, 5 voting nay. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tornatore. A fine report. On to the Order of Economic Development, Member Tim Elliott.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of item EDR 462-20, amendment to a resolution approving issuance of payments by DuPage County to training providers throughout the Trade Adjustment Assistance Grant, year 18.
There's been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff.
Okay. Resolution is adopted. Thank you. Mr. Elliott.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize. I should have combined these items. I did not, so my apologies. I would next move approval of item EDCO 21-20, awarding resolution to AT&T Government Education and Healthcare Solutions for the purchase of telecom services in the amount of $32,000.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Healy, aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. A fine report. On to the Order of Health and Human Services, Member Sam Tornatore.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I move to combine items A, B, C, D, E, and F under Health and Human Services. These are all modifications to various grants.
So there's a motion to combine items A through F. All those in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
nay. The ayes have it. The
Aye.
items are combined. All right, we'll do a roll call on combining them. Forgive me. So the items A through F has been motioned and seconded. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan.
Aye.
Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tornatore, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of HHS R 456-20, resolution approving a fifth modification of a housing development fund grant for the care center. I move to approve HHS R 457-20, a recommendation to approve a third modification of an HDF grant for the care center. Move to approve HHS R 458-20, a resolution recommending approval of a third modification of a CDBG grant for the care center. Move approval of HHS R 459-20. Also a recommendation to approve a first modification to a CDBG grant to the Village of Addison. Move approval of HHS R 460-20, a resolution recommending approval of a second modification to a CDBG grant for Kids Above All. And I move to approve HHS R 461-20, a resolution recommending approval of modification to a home investment partnership loan agreement with Community Housing Advocacy and Development.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. And Selman.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to combine items G, H, I, and J. These are contracts for software and electronic support for the Care Center.
There's a motion to combine these items. Motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Tornatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve HHSP 220-20, a recommendation approval to Kronos for software support for the Care Center. Move to approve HHSP 221-20. Also a recommendation for approval of a contract to Kronos for a software upgrade. I move to approve HHSP 222-20, a recommendation for approval of contract to XL Electric for electrical upgrades for the Care Center. And finally, I move to approve HHSP 223-20, a recommendation for approval of a contract purchase order to Cimbria Rehab for physical, occupational, speech, and respiratory therapy for the Care Center.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
And Selman.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tornatore. On to the order of judicial public safety, Member Grant Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to combine agenda items JPS 12A, C, and D.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Eckhoff.
Mr. Chairman, I think I think Member Desart was looking for
Oh,
recognition.
I'm sorry. Forgive me. I have to keep turning over here. Yes.
Thank you, Member Elliott. I couldn't really hear Member Eckhoff. Did he say he's combining A, C, and D?
A, C, and D.
Okay, I do have comment on D when that comes up.
Okay. We're going to
Should I comment now, or are we just voting to combine
Well, we
them?
want to combine them, but if you want to vote separately on it, then maybe you don't want to combine them, so that's up to you.
No, I just have questions. I had a conversation about item D yesterday with Nick Kottmeyer, and I asked him why we're buying at the state's attorney a brand new 2020 vehicle, a brand new vehicle when we're looking at such a significant shortfall. And he told me that the transmission is dead on the vehicle that they share. So my question is, why can't the state's attorneys use their own vehicles and then get mileage reimbursement? And there might be some reason. Maybe they don't want any bad actors to see their personal license plates. I don't know. But instead of buying a vehicle, could the state's attorneys use their own vehicle and just get mileage allowance?
We're going to defer to Mr. McCarthy, an assistant state's attorney, to answer that question, if we may.
By and large, Member Desart, when ASAs are out in the field, they do use their own vehicles, but these are typically used by investigators who would use a government car. And obviously, if you're a detective, you're a police officer, or law enforcement agency, if you're going to go out and interview witnesses or try and pick people up on warrants, it's a little bit problematic if you're not in if you're in your personal vehicle. So.
Gotcha. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you, Connor. I appreciate it. One more question. Why are we buying a vehicle in Will County when DuPage has scores of car dealerships?
Well,
Anybody?
Nick Kottmeyer is going to answer that question.
Purchase under the state contract, cheapest bid out there. So Division of Transportation is the one who sources these, but this would be the cheapest one that they could find.
No, we can't give presidential.
That's correct.
Preferential treatment to DuPage County companies.
That's a shame because I'm sure any dealership would match this offer, this $24,000 offer. But all right, thank you. That answers my question. Thanks.
Member Ozog?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kottmeyer, quick question about that idea. Is that done on a regional basis, I assume? I mean, they're not going to send us a car from the southern part of the state, right? Is that divided up regionally?
It's a statewide bid that's put out by obviously the state of Illinois procurement. And it's my understanding that anywhere across the state can bid on it. So yes, we can take delivery from Southern Illinois, from up here, wherever's cheapest is where they take delivery from.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, where are we?
I don't think we vote. I don't even think we voted to combine them yet, and we had discussion. So I think we're all kind of messed up now. So I think we have to vote to combine and approve these items.
So we're going to try to get there. Member Zay?
Yeah, just for clarification, thank you, Member Dessart. I've been on this for years. We've reached out to DuPage dealers, and they do not bid on these, so it is disappointing with all our car dealers that they would not participate in this program.
Yes. Okay, so we are back to a motion and a second to combine items A, C, and D.
I think Member Krajewski wants to speak.
Okay. Member Krajewski.
I was just going to say one thing. If we were home rule, we could do that. And in Downers Grove, back when I was mayor, we were home rule. We would give it to local Downers Grove businesses, even if they were up to 2% higher. But we could do that as a home rule community. We're not in the county, so I think that's why we're locked in.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any further questions, comments? Okay, so we're back. We have a motion and a second to combine items A, C, and D. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Eckhoff.
Aye.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Dessart.
Aye.
And DeCiani.
Okay, the resolution, well, they're combined. Please proceed,
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Eckhoff.
Chairman. I had to move approval of JPS 226-20, recommendation for body armor for the Sheriff's Department. JPS 2020, change order Sentinel LLC for JPS devices and electronic monitoring services. An action item to buy from Curry Motors a Frankfurt 1 2020 Ford Escape 4-door vehicle.
And a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Eckhoff.
Aye.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Dessart.
Aye.
And DeCiani.
Okay, thank you. The resolutions are adopted. Mr. Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To proceed on agenda item 12B, I need to make a motion to discharge the JPS committee.
It's been a motion and a second to discharge. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Eckhoff.
Aye.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Dessart.
Aye.
And DeCiani.
Okay, the item is discharged. Mr. Eckhoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of JPS 228-20, recommendation for approval of contract purchase order to WatchGuard, Inc. for in-car video systems for the sheriff's vehicles.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Eckhoff.
Aye.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatore.
Aye.
Zay.
Aye.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Dessart.
Aye.
And DeCiani.
Okay, thank you. The resolution is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Eckhoff. A fine report. On to the order of legislative, Member Tim Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The three items today are the approval of our contracts with lobbyists and government affairs. I will just say, I think we're all cognizant that there's been a lot of motion in the last year in Washington and in Springfield, and I'm not certain there's ever been a time where we've had to rely on our lobbyists more. Even with Springfield not operating as normal, they've really done a great job for us this year, and so I'm pleased to bring these names before us. I'm going to divide this into two, and so I would first seek approval of item A, LEGP 21620, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to BGR Governmental Affairs LLC.
And a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, we have
Discussion?
Member Selman. Member Selman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to just briefly thank BGR and Bill Viney. I think last year when we passed these contracts, I made the comments that I just would like some more contact and some more communication. And Bill Viney heard that charge when we entered this era of COVID. He's met with members multiple times. Usually right before sessions, we can sort of get our updates and give him some requests. I'm just incredibly grateful. I feel like between the health department and their COVID updates and Bill Viney's updates about what's happening in Congress, I feel like we actually have the tools to know what's coming down the pipe as much as possible. So I'm happy to vote for this contract today. I will be voting against the items B and C because we don't hear from them. We get emails that are honestly, I think, no better than the capital facts emails we get. And they could easily get my vote if they just did what Bill did. Reach out to Cheryl, offer to speak to members when it's appropriate. I know right now we're not in session. Just play a little bit. You're getting far more money than we're giving to our federal lobbyist. And I would generally just love to know what you're working on more so than in these forum emails that we get. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Member Dessert.
Thank you. I want to give a shout out to Cheryl Marquet as well, because Cheryl set up these meetings, these phone calls with Bill Viney, and they have been excellent. I've learned so much. Bill takes all the time in the world, so thank you to Cheryl for organizing these meetings. I've learned a great deal, and I will be voting for BGR. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. We have a motion and a second on item A. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Dessart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Passes.
The resolution is adopted. I see Member Ozog seeking recognition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to consider item B and C separately.
Okay. There's a motion to
I move that we
I mean, they are separated right now.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will just simply not make a motion to combine them.
Okay, he'll withdraw his motion, so we'll
thank
get
you.
to consider them separately as they are
Okay.
noted on the
It
agenda.
would be two votes anyway. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, next I would move approval of item LEGP 217-20, recommendation for the approval of a county contract to Roger C. Marquardt and Company.
Motion and a second. Mr. Clerk. Question, Member Rutledge.
Chairman, if there it is. I have routinely been against the lobbying fees that we pay, but in this day and age of COVID, I think it is important that we have those people in Springfield. I'm glad to see that the dollars we spend are coming down there. So prior to my previous votes, I will be approving or voting to approve these contracts.
Very good. Member Pachowski.
I
Followed by Krajewski.
I attended the last legislative meeting, and we always say what a great job Cheryl does, and Cheryl was singing the praises and the results that Chip Humes had received. When we were in Springfield last time we were down there, was Representative Willis who was commenting what a great job that Chip does in these bills. And I think everybody has Chip's cell phone. He's the most accessible person in the world. And, you know, I was on legislative for years, and I questioned our lobbyists because they weren't engaged. And Cheryl ticked off a lot of accomplishments, especially this year with COVID. She said our lobbyists made more efforts and did more for this session than any time before. So I will be wholeheartedly supporting B.
Okay, further discussion? Member Krajewski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, want to compliment Chip Humes for all the work he's done as chair of Animal Services. We've been a leader throughout the state and then even locally here in DuPage County with a number of pieces of legislation. And Chip has been phenomenal down in Springfield working with the different legislators. And we've gotten many communities in DuPage who have passed their own home rule authority banning the sale of puppy mill dogs, but we've been trying to get legislation through the state to give us that ability. Chip's done a phenomenal job with that. And I know I was out at the Democratic senator office with Member Dessart, and the senator relayed to us how important it is for the lobbyists and specifically how great Chip Humes is. So, I'm wholeheartedly supporting this. He's done a great job, at least as chairman of my committee, and all the legislation that we've tried to pass in Springfield with the bills that we've been supporting down there. He gets out to every of the legislators on both sides of the aisle. And in talking to those legislators to help support our legislation that's on our legislative agenda, they all compliment Chip on how well he does. So.
Further discussion, Member Tornatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too wholeheartedly support this contract for a variety of reasons. Not only has Chip done a remarkable job with legislation, but in this day and age, given the fact that the legislature hasn't been in session, it's Chip's relationship with the governor's office, which has caused a significant amount of benefit to our county. Not only have I received feedback from the administration, but as former chair of legislative, but from our legislative leaders as well, singing the praises of Chip, both Republican and Democrat. So he has a great rapport with not only the legislative, but the executive branch in Springfield, and is always available to us here. I fully support him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Tornatore. Member Dessart, followed by Member
you.
Chaplin.
Yeah, I've been critical of lobbyists and paying the lobbyists all this money when I could just call my state rep or my state senator and they'll pick up the phone when I call. But I reached out to Cheryl Marquet and I talked to her about this, and she said that when she first started here, the county had 2 federal lobbyists and 3 state lobbyists. So we're down to 1 federal lobbyist and 2 state lobbyists. And she said that Chip's role mostly is with the 59 senators and the 118 House members, and that Sullivan and Poulos are more connected with the administration. So I feel like I'm going to vote for both of these because I feel like that gives us good coverage all around the Capitol. So I've changed my mind on lobbyists, and especially probably since talking to Bill Viney and how open he is. And I guess it's my responsibility or our responsibility to reach out to Chip or Poulos or Sullivan. So I will be voting yes.
Okie dokie. Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Chairman. And as many of you know, I have always voted no on the lobbyists. And part of the reasons why I'm voting no is because part of the Act initiative is transparency. So, we have had a lot of great conversations with Bill Viney, and he did a great job, and that's why I voted for him today. But, on some of these other lobbyists, I just don't have enough information to articulate to my constituents what they're doing for us. And, we're paying them a lot of money for us to have to reach out to them. I think they should be coming like Bill Viney did and speaking with our committee at least while we're in session. We did have 5 lobbyists, and we were told we needed those lobbyists all the time. Now we're down to 3. So I'm just wondering, really, how many lobbyists do we really need? I said I'd like to see 1 federal lobbyist and 1 state lobbyist, and I could support 1 federal lobbyist and 1 state lobbyist, so that's what I'll be doing today. But, I pulled invoices from our lobbyists. The invoice says June, July. I worked in accounts payable. I could never pay an invoice that didn't give me a description of what I was paying for, even if we have contracts with them. I just couldn't do it. So, I like to see a little more transparency in that aspect, but I will be voting for 1 of the state lobbyists today. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Was there someone else seeking recognition? Oh, Mr. Zay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm surprised because this went 2 weeks ago to legislative, and I think Member Chaplin said that she supported all this and voted for all these items. Now we get to the county board, and it's a different tune. So I know, lobbyists, part of their job is to get back to people, but you have to call them first to get information or questions. And I think they've been doing a great job here, especially during COVID, working with the administration. I mean, we have a testing site here, which took a lot of heavy lifting by the chairman and our lobbyists to get that here. They've done a great job under really circumstances that we've never seen before, when the legislature's only been in session, 5 days or 4 days, whatever it was. And they continue to work. I know every time I've had a question on something, pending legislation, what's going on, we give them a call. They call us right back. You call me right back. So I think they're very important for us to have, and both firms, I think, do a good job for us.
Okay. Further discussion? Member Elliott.
I was just going to, Mr. Chairman, to close. Member Healy wants to go next.
Okay, please. Member Healy.
Just wanted to say the reason we reduced down from 2 lobbyists in Washington to 1 is that we have 1 lobbyist who can handle both the House and the Senate. Before, there were divided duties, and Tom Kukolich and I got together and, with the chairman at that time, and decided that we could probably do it with 1 if we could find a lobbyist that, specialized in being able to do both and very heavy in the transportation and everything else. We used to have multiple lobbyists down in Springfield. We threw a lot of those responsibilities to be the quarterback onto Cheryl Markey. And someday when Cheryl is gone, we're going to need a 3rd lobbyist in Springfield to act as the quarterback. I know very few people could handle the workload that Cheryl Markey has handled, especially the fact that she acts as the quarterback, which used to be, Dan, help me here. Who was it? I can't remember the name of our lobbyist at that time. He passed away. But that's the reason why we've reduced down the number of lobbyists. We threw the work on to Cheryl.
Persico, Vince.
Yeah, Vince. He was my roommate. Yeah.
Yes.
And my 5th grade teacher.
Yeah.
He was a great guy.
The smartest guy that he ever taught. That's what he said, Tim. It's true.
That was kind.
He absolutely said that. He ever taught. Okay, well, thanks, Jim Healy. We have who's to close here? We have our legislative chairman, Member Elliott, to close.
And I just, I will say Vince Persico was just a heck of a guy, both personally as a teacher. I misspoke. He's actually my 7th grade teacher. And just a real leader in the Glen Ellyn community. And just one of those people that made our community a much, much better place. So very fond memories of Vince. My comment to close, I can't say much beyond what everyone else already said, except this. I've never had an issue getting in touch with our lobbyists. And so I would encourage anyone who has questions of the folks in Springfield or Mr. Viney, if you need to get a hold of them, just call them, text them, email them. I've never had a phone call that went unreturned for any length of time from any of them. And it wasn't because I was the chair of the legislative committee. As you all know, I've only been that for a few weeks. Even as a first-year county board member, they were very, very responsive. So by all means, if you need to get a hold of them, please reach out to them. They will respond.
Okay, thank you. So there's been a motion and a second on this item B, LEGP 217-20. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
No.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
No.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
No.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. And Eckhoff.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. Mr. Elliott. You got to unmute. Something about District 4 and that mute button.
It's a rough day for us today. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. I would move approval of LEGP 218-20, recommendation for approval of a county contract to Rauchi and Sullivan Strategies, LLC.
Been a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, nobody seeking recognition. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
No.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff.
Okay, the resolution is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Elliott. A fine report. On to the Order of Public Works, Member Jim Healy.
It'll be read by Mr. Noonan.
Mr. Noonan, forgive me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to combine items 14A through E under Public Works agenda.
Been a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori. Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
And Larson.
Okay. The items are combined. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for approval on the following: FMR 47320, recommendation for the acceptance of an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and the City of Wheaton to share building code administration for CARES Act projects at the county campus. PWR 46520, permanent water main easement, Tri-State Fire Protection District in the amount of $1. PWP 22420, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Allied Waterproofing, Inc. for vehicular traffic deck coating system for Public Works for the period August 25th, 2020 through November 30th, 2020 for a total contract amount not to exceed $45,200 per lowest responsible bid. PWP 22520, agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois and Donahue and Associates, Inc. for CARES Act funded professional design build services to upgrade SCADA systems for the county's waterworks, sanitary sewer system, stormwater management, and flood control facilities for the period August 25th, 2020 through November 30th, 2022 for a total contract amount not to exceed $3.2 million. Professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with the Illinois Local Government Professional Services. And the last item is going to be a change order amendment to Resolution PWP 17019 issued to Rempe Sharp and Associates, Inc. for on-call professional engineering services to increase the contract in the amount of $20,000 for services related to the 479 and 509 parking structure.
Second call.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on those items. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge. Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
And Larson.
Okay, the resolutions are adopted. Thank you, Mr. Noonan. A fine report. On to the Order of Technology, Member Greg Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one item today. I move approval of TEP 227-20, recommendation for the contract purchase order SHI International Corps. And as I mentioned in finance, there is a typo in the blurb. It should read November 10th, 2020 through November 9th, 21 in the period of performance.
Let the record so reflect. There's been a motion. Is there a second? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. Ozog.
Aye.
Pachowski. Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. And Elliott.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The resolution is adopted. Thank you, Member Hart. On to the Order of Transportation, Member Don Pachowski.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I would move to approve DTP 161A as amendment to a resolution issued to Christopher Reed Buick Engineering for Phase 1 engineering
Second.
services.
And a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Pachowski.
Aye.
Renahan.
Aye.
Rutledge.
Aye.
Selman.
Aye.
Tornatori.
Aye.
Zay. Chaplin.
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Desart.
Aye.
DeCiani. Eckhoff. Elliott.
Aye.
Hart.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Krajewski.
Aye.
Larson. Noonan. And Ozog.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The resolution is adopted. Thank you, Member Pachowski. We move on to the next order of business entitled Discussion. We're familiar with this. This is pursuant to Public Act 99646, the Pension Obligation Projections required by the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act. Is anyone seeking recognition on this matter? Seeing none, hearing none, we move on to the next order of business entitled Old Business. Anyone seeking recognition on the order of old business? Member Rutledge.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick reminder, we have launched the diaper drive, and it's a little bit of a slow start, but we are starting to see drop-offs at the different locations that we have. So still looking for partners to help and solicit. I'll send each and every one of you a flyer. If you could post it in a place that gets some traffic, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else seeking recognition on the order of old business? Member Renahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take the opportunity to thank so many people that have spoken up for me, who know my advocacy for Sterigenics never wavered. And especially the Stop Sterigenics team. Thank you so very much. And I do feel, based on last meeting, I do need to set the record straight, go on the record and explain, fully. I did check the wrong box on a witness slip. I marked opponent as an opponent to Sterigenics, not the legislation. I was not able to change the witness slip, as Mr. Leopoldo pointed out during public comment, to correct the mistake. The only thing I could do was file another witness slip, which I did. So for all the people who took the time to view the error, I wish they would also take the time to see that I'm a proponent for that bill. I consistently and sincerely fought with so many other people against ETO poisoning in our community. Hey, my family's been impacted too. So I just think, desperate efforts to mislead, to challenge my integrity were disheartening and beneath the dignity of this board. That's all I have to say.
Okay, further discussion on the order of old business. Anyone else seeking recognition? Mr. Zay, followed by Mr. DeCiani.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what we saw today was a little bit of political theater, and if this is the way we want to go on this board, I am fine with that. When we had a board member complaining about repetitiveness on a topic, but knowing well that there was more comments that she was waiting for, because we know that, I guess, the advocacy that one of the members just said, that when the chairman of the DuPage Democratic Party sends an email out to their members on the 22nd at 5:15 p.m. asking people to send public comment in against Chairman Cronin and his remarks, and then we get correspondingly, it just must be, I don't know, just a coincidence that the first public comment came in that same day at 5:28, which was about 15 minutes later. If we want to do that and have that going and have this kind of dialogue and use a public comment, and we talked about repetitiveness, but I didn't see any members standing up when Member Noonan was getting repetitive public comments against, or Member DeCiani, I guess that's fine. I happen to know the chairman of the Republican Party in DuPage County, and our MailChimp account that's got 5,000 people, our 9 township chairmen, our 400 plus committeemen. I guess I can send an email out, and we can start asking questions also, like, where's the county clerk been since the beginning of March? We haven't seen her since the first meeting in March. It's part of her job is to be here. But I guess if we want to go that way, we want to play politics and then hide behind it and say we're not playing politics, I guess we can do that. But I don't see where there was a correspondence where an email is set out by a political party, and then immediately after, no public comment had come in before that email that was sent out to their members, none whatsoever. But as soon as that email was sent out, all of a sudden these people started stepping forward because they were told to send emails in. So if we want to start down that line and we want to have this, we want these meetings to go until 9, 10 o'clock at night, I can tell you the other party in the county will step up and step up hard and start asking big questions of the members of this board and other elected officials.
Further discussion, Member DeCiani.
Chairman, I do want to vouch for my seatmate, Member Renahan. When she had indicated to me after I called her that she had made a mistake, I went and I said, well, did you go ahead and actually fill out the other side? I've done this before. I've made a mistake and filled out the wrong witness slip. And sure enough, I went to the bill and it was there. So I think we just need to be respectful and not take shots. I think that was done in poor taste. Member Ranahan, I know you were out there fighting for Sterigenics with me and many of us that were out there. So, let's put the partisanships aside and let's be nice and let's be respectful. And it was an honest mistake, and I think you deserve that due, Member Ranahan, because that was over the top, wrong how you were treated. Thank you.
Further discussion, Member Ozog.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In response to Mr. Zay's remarks just now, I need to point out that during public participation at our meeting 2 weeks ago, several people were writing in about Ms. Renahan's mistake about filing these witness slips. So that seems to have been a notification that this was going to be an issue. So if we want to talk about notifying people, it does seem that occurred. The other issue I have is that, first of all, if we don't want to have this sort of thing, then we don't treat our fellow board members in such a manner that we know that she filed one slip and then we decide that she filed another and we're going to make a case out of that, saying that she was not supporting Sterigenics. And unfortunately, the public now knows about this, and I think that's a good thing. In a separate matter, I would like to apologize to Member Covert today for interrupting her during our discussion about the chickens, but I will also point out that we had her discussion on maybe 3 different occasions in the recent past about the chicken issue, and I'm frankly glad it's passed, and I hope that the homeowners who are interested in doing that enjoy this avocation. Thank you, and I do apologize, Member Covert. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion, anyone else seeking recognition? Mr. Elliott.
Yeah, if I can, on just a broader point, public comment's a pretty important part of every meeting. It's one of the chances for people in the public to confront us and to come in and offer their opinion. It's why it's mandated under the statute. And there's always been a risk for public comment to be weaponized by one group or the other. And that's just part of our democracy. I will say, though, that with the COVID rules that we've got, where now people don't have to appear in person, but you can send in emails by the dozen or by the 100, it does feel like this is amped up dramatically. And we can all think of several occasions over the past few weeks where one group or another has clearly solicited their supporters, their followers, their friends, whatever, to send in multiple emails that pretty much follow the same template. We've all seen it. We all know what we're talking about, and pointing fingers doesn't do any good. I would just say to everyone, I'm pretty sure we all read our emails, and so we don't need the barrage during public comment of the emails to be read aloud to be effective. I'm pretty sure every person on this board reads the emails that they get. I think there's a woman who actually showed up in person today and indicated that she had received a response from all 3 of us in District 4, and I know the rest of you are equally responsive. So I guess I would just say to everyone, while we clearly have a right to have people submit during public comment, perhaps those on this board and those listening, it might be a bit more productive use of time if you just sent emails to the members of the board, because you could get the same message across, but without having meetings that go, 3 o'clock right now.
Okay. Further discussion, Member Chaplin, followed by Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Chairman. I certainly hope nobody is questioning the integrity of the people from the Stop Sterigenics group that made public comment today. I know them, and I think when they found out about what happened, they were rightly outraged about it. As Member Elliott said, people might solicit some people, but I have no doubt that the members from the Stop Sterigenics group that sent those emails did that after they found out what happened with member Renahan. And I'm very upset with those comments that were made about, especially the good members of our community from the Stop Sterigenics group. They've already been through enough, and now we're accusing them of, being, we're questioning their integrity. So I think that's enough, and I think, I hope that this board can finally move forward in a positive manner and get the work of the people done. And I would like to go over the board rules. I think there's a lot of items in the board rules that we can tighten up. I think public comment, especially now with this COVID, let's look at it and, make it solid and say, these are our rules and this is what we're going to stick to. We're going to allow 30 minutes of in person, 30 minutes online. That's it, 3 minutes per person. And let's hold fast. Let's do that going forward. Something, but I would really like to review our board rules. I think it's long overdue.
Okay. Anyone else seeking recognition on the order of old business? Seeing none, hearing none, we move to the order of business entitled New Business. Anyone seeking recognition on the order of new business? Mr. Pachowski.
We had a lot of public comment today, but the public comment that really was the most stunning and worthwhile for me was Kathy Nelson, because there's a woman who paid her first installment, loses her job, has to pay for medical costs, and all she wants is a pathway to relief. So I would work with the District 4 people to help people like her out, because I think she came here and expressed herself very well, and I think we should be able to help somebody who is going through a situation like hers.
Thank you. Very well said. Yes. Member Desart, followed by Member Ozog, on the order of new business.
Yes, thank you. I think that we should put something on the agenda to start talking about giving all the folks tax relief. Or what are we going to do September 1st? Are we going to delay, allow people to delay the payment? I don't see that happening because it's already, the 25th of August today. So, but I'd like to see us have a conversation about maybe delaying the tax sales. So could we get that on the agenda to help people like Kathy?
Okay. Member Ozog?
I spoke with Gwen Henry yesterday regarding Ms. Nelson's issue. And first of all, we collect taxes not just for the county. We obviously collect for the schools, municipalities, et cetera. According to Ms. Henry, this would require the legislature to be involved in terms of extending the tax date. There has been some talk that the tax sale will not happen until January. And at that time, your owed taxes are purchased. And so it then, if I'm getting this correctly, becomes a loan. And she told me yesterday that it's about 2.5 years between the tax sale and where you could possibly lose your house. So there is a very long period before there would be, a final, where the house would be in the sheriff's hands. But at this point, it really doesn't seem that we're able to do that. They can pay whatever they're able to pay, and I will be sending her an email later on. But you can pay what you can. There will be a penalty. We also don't have anything that we can do about the penalties at this point. Should the amount owed go into the tax sale, you would then have the amount that you had paid refunded to you, and then it would be in the tax sale. And you can then redeem it at some point in the 2.5 year period that it would take before it's actually sold. So it's not really an eviction notice. It's certainly not a situation that I really am. It's unfortunate that this is happening, but it's really kind of out of our hands, and it's out of Ms. Henry's hands in terms of what we can actually do. But again, it is some consolation that it is a 2.5 year period between the sale of the taxes and where it would become a situation where the sheriff would take the home. So I'm going to relay that to her later on. But it's complicated and it's unfortunate, but I believe the legislature needs to be involved in order for us to extend it any further. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else seeking recognition on the order of new business? New business. Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I am informed and know that we do not have anything to come before us on the executive session, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion and a second to adjourn this meeting to Tuesday, September 8, 2020 at 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those nay. The ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.